Hey guys, how are you all? Welcome back to my channel. Today we will see what if cold Naruto hates Konoha. If you enjoy, then please like, share and do comments. It's been 3 years now ever since the day Sasuke has left the Leaf and joined Orochimaru. 3 years since Naruto left on his trip with Jiraiya. 3 years of hard work and determination, just to meet his friend once again and knock some sense into him. 3 years in which he did not fulfill his lifetime promise. Uzumaki Naruto, his head hanging low and his shoulders slouched, made his way down the streets of the Hidden Leaf. The villagers regarded him only with looks of hatred and disgust, as if they were cursing his existence for reasons beyond his control. His heart was filled with pain of grief as he thought of the upcoming conversations he was about to have, painful as the 2 previous ones he already had. Stopping in his tracks, he took a deep breath and looked up. He stood at the edge of the small bridge that had long ago burned into his memory. Like ghosts, images of his past appeared, showing a younger version of him standing in front of himself with 2 other people by his side. The first was his all-time rival and best friend. The cold onyx eyes stared at him with indifference as the black hair moved slightly in the wind. A memory of when Uchiha Sasuke was nothing more than an arrogant ass with a flashy bloodline limit to him. The second was his crush from when he was a child still, it even developed into a mature love interest by now. Her pink hair and green eyes easily identified her as Haruno Sakura, self-proclaimed girlfriend of Sasuke. They both frowned at him and all 3 faded away with a blow of the wind. It was then that Naruto noticed the real Sakura was where the illusions just were. She had grown into a stunning young woman over the years that made his attraction to her grow every time they had eye contact. She was just perfect in his eyes, but that didn't matter to her. Only one thing did when she came closer. "Where is Sasuke-kun?" she asked in a cold voice. Naruto remained silent. He knew she wouldn't like what he had to tell her. "Where is he, Naruto?" "I'm sorry, Sakura-chan." Naruto muttered and looked away at the water that flowed gently below the bridge. "Sorry?" Sakura asked and blinked confused. "I failed to bring him back, again." A very uncomfortable silence fell over the scene as Naruto focused his attention on the flowing water. He couldn't stand to see her in pain, let alone causing it. He just wanted to see her smile and be happy, not hurt her. Even if that meant to bring back the one she loved and would stay with, she would be happy. "Useless," she whispered, her voice trembling. Hearing her voice filled with hatred, he stepped back as if she had punched him in the chest. Now the yelling would start, the tears, and the beating, may it be mental or physical. "You always hated him," she cried out. "You always were jealous of his talents and skills. He was the top of the class, the #1 rookie, while you were not more than the endmost. You always tried to be better than him, to compete with him." She wasn't screaming yet, but her voice reached dangerous levels as she crossed the bridge coming towards Naruto. Her eyes were turning dark from her rage and her knuckles cracked from the pressure she applied to her fist. "You don't even want to save him, do you? You never did. You're so selfish. He would save you like he always did. I wish he would be here instead of you. I hate you. I wish you'd just leave and never come back." Sakura shouted. She was way beyond mad and didn't show any sign of calming down. "Sakura-chan," Naruto muttered as his body shivered all along. Each of her words cracked his heart, bringing it closer to the shattering point. Her eyes were black with rage now. This was not the Sakura he knew. This was not the Sakura he loved more than anything. "I wish you would just die." She spat at him before punching him in the face. It was that hit that let his heart break, shattered into countless fragments and utterly destroyed. He hit the ground and found himself looking at the sky. The white clouds floated by lazily and free, moving softly in the wind without a care of anything. He had no idea how long he just simply laid there. He had no intention of moving from the spot, but 2 Anbu appeared from nowhere. Uzumaki Naruto, the one with a bear mask, said, "The council has demanded your presence. You will come with us," he ordered, making clear that Naruto had no choice. Naruto himself offered no reply and simply allowed the Anbu to grab him and take him away, to the chambers within the Hokage Tower. "Utatane-sama, we have brought Uzumaki Naruto as requested." "Thank you, Captain," she acknowledged in her aged voice and then looked at Naruto. "You're aware of the reasons why you have been summoned, demon?" Naruto didn't answer. He wasn't very fond of her choice of words for that matter. "Answer." The Anbu captain hit Naruto in his side, getting his attention. Quote ellipsis. No, I do not know. Naruto simply answered. Very well. The aged female council member began, showing a small frown on her forehead. As of today, you are hereby banished from the Hidden Leaf Village. What? Naruto answered in utter shock. This was impossible, they just couldn't do this to him. No way, after all he was going to become the sixth Hokage, wasn't he? His track of thought was interrupted however as a blow from his right made him lose his balance and he fell to his knees. As I've said, she continued in a very cold voice, the council has voted for your exile. Upon review of your service record we have come to the conclusion that it was your influence that made the shinobi Uchiha Sasuke defect to the nuke Nin Orochimaru. But it was the cursed seal that Naruto began explaining himself but was cut off by a punch from his left. It is for those reasons that you are to be banished. She spake with hatred. For actions as yours we would have normally executed you however. It was decided that such punishment would have been too kind. She said and a small and evil smile appeared on her wrinkled face. Hence from this day your status as Konoha shinobi is revoked. Should you enter the Konoha village again you are to be killed on sight unless otherwise decided by us. She finished and looked satisfied, almost happy. Naruto couldn't believe this. Why would they do this to him? He blamed himself for not bringing Sasuke back but there was no way in hell that he was responsible for Sasuke leaving the village. This had to be a joke, a real bad one. Anbu, take this trash away, have him pick up his belongings from his apartment and escort him to the main gates. Utatane Kaharu, the eldest woman, finally said. Yes, Utatane-sama. Both Anbu said in union and then dragged Naruto out of the door. It didn't take long for Naruto to gather his things, not that the Anbu guys were giving him much time anyway. They sealed his possessions into a few scrolls and shoved them into a backpack. Looking back at his now empty apartment, Naruto felt a cold tingle grasp him. It looked like he had never been here now, erased from existence. Deep down he wondered how the others would react to this. They probably wouldn't care anyway, so he concluded. He was escorted down the street with both Anbu members next to him. A few of the villagers were looking confused at what was happening. It was just then that Naruto realized he was about to pass by Ichiraku's ramen. Old man Tucci and his daughter Ayame were some of the rare people that liked Naruto for who he was, just like the third Hokage. Who knows if Naruto wouldn't have turned into another Gaara if it wasn't for those two's kindness, and ramen. After all, their ramen was the best of them all. Allowing himself to let a small smile appear, Naruto slowed his pace what alarmed the Anbu. Keep moving. If it's not too much trouble, Naruto said with a sly grin, I'd like to say goodbye to at least one person. No, please, just one person? I said, make it quick. The Anbu captain intervened and then looked his partner straight into the eyes. But, it's my call, he said and then looked at Naruto, you have 2 minutes. Thank you. The Anbu captain nodded and stood at the side of the stand while the other joined him after a second of thinking. Taking a deep breath, Naruto put on a fake smile and walked in. Naruto, Tucci said and began grinning, have a seat, what will it be today? Sorry old man but no ramen today. Huh, that's a good one Naruto, the elder man laughed and went on, seriously though, what's your order? I am serious old man, I've got only a few moments before I have to leave. Leave? Oh, another big mission, huh? Tucci said with a smile. Yeah, something like that. Say, is Ayame-ne-chan around? She's out on a delivery. Tucci then noticed Naruto's sad mood. Why, what's wrong? I just wanted to say goodbye, that's all. Goodbye? Geez kid, it's not like you're not coming back, right? The old man said and laughed, but stopped as he saw Naruto's serious expression. Neither of them was talking for a minute. It almost seemed like they were exchanging their words via eye contact. Your time is up, Uzumaki. The Anbu captain said from his side. Naruto kept on staring in the old man's eyes. I said your time is up. Naruto was dragged outside by both Anbu members. Tucci looked confused from Naruto to the Anbu and back as the young blonde sighed. Take care old man, give Ayame-ne-chan my best. With that said Naruto complied to follow the Anbu down the streets. Tucci stood shocked at his stand, trying to figure out what the hell was going on. He had known this boy since he was no more than a little toddler, but he never felt the feeling he was giving off just now. It was like he's all empty inside, and his eyes, when he looked into them they seemed so distant, as if there was no life left in him. His thoughts were interrupted though as a few shouts from the back were to hear. His assistants must have broken something again. Growling, he turned around and marched into the kitchen to scold those two boys. The walk to the main gate didn't take long, and by the time they've arrived, a good number of people had appeared, most likely to see the demon off. Looking at the last rays of the setting sun, Naruto felt very out of place. He took one last look at the village, at its people. "One last thing, Uzumaki," the Anbu captain said and pulled out a kunai. Naruto only nodded in response and leaned forward slightly. The captain, with his movement so fast it was impossible to see, placed a long ugly slash across Naruto's hide and marking him as banished. The crowd, seeing this, started to cheer and yell. Finally, after 16 years, the demon would leave them for good. As they voiced their approval, Naruto began walking away into the spreading darkness called night. He was all alone once again. The thud of the closed gates would echo in his mind for several nights to come. It had been a rough morning for the fifth Hokage. Tsunade was woken up by her pet pig Tonton when the small animal started to lick her face. Upon opening her eyes and seeing a pair of black ones staring down at her, she rolled out of the bed in shock and hit her head on the floor. Growling at the animal, she made her way downstairs and opened her sake cabinet to find it empty. "Damn Shizune," she thought. "She knows better than this." Feeling her headache start already, she went about her morning activities and made her way to the tower. As usual, her desk and floor were covered in documents, mission papers and scrolls. "Good morning, Tsunade-sama," Shizune greeted from behind her. "Shizune," Tsunade yawned, plopping down on her chair. "Do I have you to blame for the lack of sake in my kitchen?" "No, Tsunade-sama," the young girl frowned. "You emptied your supply 2 days prior and hasn't been restocked yet." "Oh," she frowned and began going through her work. "Did you place this here, Shizune?" She held up a black folder. "No," Shizune frowned. Tsunade opened the file and began reading. A few moments later she stood up and slammed the file on her desk. "Anbu." "Yes, Lady Hokage," an agent appeared from the wall. "I want Koharu Utatane, Homura Mitokado, Kakashi Hitaki and Sakura Haruno in my office now." "Yes, ma'am. What's wrong?" Shizune asked as the Anbu disappeared. As of last night, Uzumaki Naruto was classified as a missing nin and placed in the updated bingo book. "What? That's impossible. You're the only one with the power to declare a ninja as missing and in the book." "It appears those bastards went over my head. They wouldn't go that far, would they?" "It appears they did. But, why did he leave?" Shizune asked, looking at the file. "You'll find out in a second," she growled. A second later there was the sound of ninja appearing in her office as well as the sound of the door opening. Kakashi appeared reading his book with Koharu and Homura in front of him while Sakura came in via the door. "You wanted to see us, Hokage-sama?" Koharu bowed. "You know damn well I wanted to see you," she sneered. "Care to explain why the genin Uzumaki Naruto was declared missing without my consent?" At the mention of their teammate, Kakashi put his book away as Sakura turned as pale as Hinata. "Why did Naruto leave?" Kakashi asked. "I'll address that issue in a moment." Tsunade shot Sakura a dark glare. "Koharu, care to explain this?" Upon hearing from the Anbu that the demon left the village with his belongings, I deemed it necessary to file his papers and update the bingo book. He posses a threat not only to us but all the nations if it would be released. "You mean the Kyuubi?" Sakura asked. "You know? How?" Shizune looked at the Chunin. "He told me back when we rescued Ga. I mean the case cage." "No matter," Homura frowned. "The boy is dangerous to himself as well as others. We acted with the best intentions." "That remains to be seen," Tsunade growled, then looked at Sakura. "Now as for the possible reason why he left. Explain yourself, Haruno." "Tsunade-sensei." She gulped. "I didn't think he. What did you think would happen, you stupid bitch?" "Calm down, Lady Tsunade," Koharu said. "There's no need to raise your voice over such a matter." "Shut it, old hag." Tsunade went into a lunge at the elder woman but was restrained by the Anbu who were using all their strength to hold her back. Koharu made a small smile on her face as Homura sighed, trying to calm Tsunade down as well. "Sakura, what did you say to Naruto?" Kakashi said, looking at his student. "I didn't mean to yell at him," she said, holding back her tears. "I didn't think he would." "What? You tell the boy you hate his very existence and you think he'd be all smiles the next day?" Tsunade mocked, throwing an Anbu out the window. Even Naruto has his limits. What would you do if Uchiha Sasuke said that to you? You'd what? Be crushed? Smash. There goes a few windows. Emotional destroyed? Hurt? Crack. That desk only lasted a week. But I love Sasuke. Sakura stepped back. And Naruto loves you. Why? I don't know how after all the times you probably gave him the cold shoulder. Sakura felt her tears run freely now. Did he really love me that much? She remembered the days back in the academy and all the times before Sasuke left. He always had the smile on his face when he talked to her. Whenever she was rejected by the Uchiha, Naruto was right there saying he'd take her out or call her pretty or offer to walk her home. No matter how many times she yelled at him, he was always there when she needed him most. Now, he was gone. He wouldn't be walking in that door calling her, Sakura-chan, smiling like an idiot and asking her out for lunch. He wouldn't be there to save her when her life was in danger or when she needed a moral boost. She was now alone again like when her two teammates left to get stronger. Tsunade looked at her apprentice and sighed in disgust. It seemed like they really were the next generation of Sannin indeed. Doomed to make the mistakes of their predecessors. You didn't, Kakashi said frowning at her. I'm sorry sensei, she cried. Damn it. Kakashi looked at Tsunade. Permission to take a team and search for Naruto. It might be harder than that now Kakashi, Shizune said. He's in the bingo book and it was just updated. She got a copy from her bag. I got this today. He's already listed. Name, Uzumaki Naruto. Age, 16. Village, Hidden Leaf. Stats. Ninjutsu. Taijutsu no Genjutsu. Nonjutsu. Kage Bushin, Rasengan. Other. Has 2 chakras seen as blue and the other as red, abnormal stamina and chakra capacity. Dresses in orange and black. Has blue eyes and blonde hair. Extremely dangerous. Every hunter nin from here to Cloud will be looking for him now, Kakashi spat. Is there a picture? His updated one, Shizune showed him. Unlike the first time he got his file picture taken. He painted his face white with red details making him look like a demon warrior. It looked utterly ridiculous but he was young and stupid. In this one he was all business. He had a small grin on his face and his eyes gleamed with mischief. What are we going to do? Sakura asked. You're going to go home, Tsunade said. You're suspended till further notice. Sakura at that point left the room in a slow march with her eyes on the ground. She didn't have the strength to look anyone in the eye at the moment. All she could think about was the pain she inflicted on her remaining teammate. Naruto, she thought sadly. I'm so sorry. She didn't even notice Jiraiya walk past her on her way out. He looked around at the office and a growling Tsunade in front of her broken desk. So, he asked, that time of the month? The guards of the East Gate were bored today. Not one person had come or left and the noodle cart that passes by was absent. It was to their surprise when they heard a scream come from the Hokage's tower followed by a blur of red and green flying over their heads. A few hundred miles away jumping on tree branches was object of discussion. Naruto silently made his way towards the first place he thought he could hide for a while. When he set up his camp last night, he wondered where he should go. At first he thought he would head to one of the towns that he and Jiraiya stopped at but decided against it. Then, as if the thought popped into his head, he made his choice and went to bed. Now, he had just passed the tree line and landed on the edge of a cliff overlooking the sea and a giant bridge. The Land of Waves, the place where his first ranked mission took place. A small sad smile formed on his face as he remembered those days. When Sasuke was still with them, when he met Tazuna, Inari, Tsunami and most of all, when he met Haku and Zabuza. It was Haku that taught him a few important lessons, and it was one that stayed with him till this day and for days to come. Pushing those memories aside, he jumped down the cliff, using his chakra to cushion the landing, began his dash towards the bridge. It didn't take long for him to cross it and when he reached the gate he stopped and looked at the town. It had recovered greatly from his last visit with Jiraiya. With the giant economy boost the bridge brought, it opened the door to new things for the town. There were new housing districts, shops, markets and even a harbor. The people walked about smiling and generally happy which made him smile. Excuse me sir? A old man asked walking up to him. You aren't Uzumaki Naruto by any chance are you? Yes, he said reluctantly. I knew it. He smiled and shook the boy's hand furiously. I knew it was you. You have no idea how much an honor it is to meet you, Uzumaki Dono. How do you know me? Are you serious? He blinked. It's cause of you and your team that Wave is still standing. Your battle with Gato and his mercenaries is legendary in these parts. Really? Naruto blinked. Really boy, the man laughed. They named the damn bridge after you. Didn't you know that? They what? Of course, look over there. He pointed to a statue. That's the monument there. Naruto blinked in surprise. How could have he missed something that big in front of him and not notice? It stood at least 2 stories tall and looked like it was made out of marble. He stood in the center with his arms on his hips and a large foxy grin on his face. On his left was Sasuke with a small frown and his arms crossed in a brooding manner. On his right was Sakura with her arms behind the back and a kind smile on her face as she looked like she was gazing at Sasuke. Behind them all was his sensei Kakashi reading a book Naruto knew all too well. He had to wonder for a second if the townspeople knew what the book was. Looking at the base, he noticed a metal plaque bolted to the stone. Dedicated to the shinobi of the Leaf Village that saved our town. It is cause of them that we name the bridge in the honor of their most precious member. The great Naruto Bridge, may his determination last forever as well as our bridge. Simply amazed that the people in this small village thought so much of him, he simply stood there looking at the towering monument. So what do we owe this honor, Uzumaki Dono? The man asked. Just call me Naruto, he grinned sheepishly. I came here for a visit. I don't. Suppose you can take me to where Tazuna lives, would you? Tazuna? The man blinked. Of course. It would be my pleasure. The man led Naruto through the town with a slight spring in his step. As they walked down the street, a few of the villagers stopped and looked at the boy with expressions ranging from shock to pure joy. Not used to such treatment, Naruto put on a small smile and waved back at a few people who greeted him. It didn't take long for them to reach Tazuna's house. It seemed like he decided not to move but renovated his house so it looked brand new. All the windows were clean and the roof was all patched up as well as a fresh coat of white paint on the walls. Well, here you go, Uzu. Naruto-san, the man said. Will you be staying for a while? I'm not really sure, Naruto said. No shorter than a few days. Excellent. Enjoy your stay in Wave, Naruto-san. Thank you. I didn't get your name. Kiyohei, the man smiled. Kiyohei Kawasaki. Thank you, Kawasaki-san. No need, my boy, he said, walking off. Good day. As the man walked off, Naruto looked at the door of the house and sighed. Bringing his arm up, he placed it at the door and knocked 3 times. Just a second, a woman's voice said. Naruto heard the sound of feet walking on a polished wood floor as it came closer. After a few seconds, the door slid open to reveal a striking woman in her late 20s wearing a blue dress and a white apron. Her hair was black and vanished behind the back as her brown eyes looked at him curiously. Can I help you, young man? She asked. What, you don't recognize me, Tsunami-san? Naruto smiled. Naruto? She gasped. Is that you? The one and only. How you been? Great, she said, pulling the boy into a hug. Look at you. You're gigantic. 3 years can do that to a person. Come in, she said, pulling him through the door and down the hall. Otto-san, Inari, we have a guest. The house looked better than the last time he was there. Like outside, the inner walls had a fresh coat of paint in a pale blue color and dark wood floors. There was a warmness in the house that he had not felt anywhere else before, making him feel calm and relaxed. This early? A man asked from the kitchen. They know better than come this early. Who is it? Take a look, Otto-san, she said, pushing Naruto forward. What can I help you with, Yun? He froze in shock. Naruto? Is that you? Good to see you haven't drunk yourself blind, Tazuna. The old man was about to respond when a blue blur shot past him and tackled Naruto to the floor. He slid a few feet before coming to a stop and looking at a mop of black hair hugging his chest. Naruto Ni-chan, that you, Inari? Naruto blinked. You grew up fast. The boy sat up and grinned. He had hit a growth spurt and stood a foot or 2 under Naruto, which was quite tall for his age. He grew his hair out a bit more and had a small ponytail with bang on the side of his face. He lost the overalls and got a pair of dark blue shorts and a light green shirt. Inari, where are your manners? His mother frowned. Oh, sorry Ni-chan, he said, getting up. It's all right, Naruto grinned. I've grown up to over the years. Not as weak as I used to be. Awesome, Inari gasped. Oh Ni-chan, I'm training to be a ninja like you. Really? Don't get him going, Tazuna groaned. Ever since you left that's all he's been interested in. So much for following in my footsteps. You could always take up an apprentice Otto-san, Tsunami said walking to the kitchen. Are you hungry Naruto? I made more than enough this morning. Sure thing, he sat at the table. I missed your cooking. Oh you, she giggled. So what are you doing here? The others come with you? How are they? Quote. There, okay. Naruto ran a hand through his hair. Kakashi hasn't changed much. What's Sakura Ne-chan and Sasuke Ni-chan? Inari asked from his seat. Quote. Sakura is doing fine. She's shorter than me now. What about Sasuke? Tazuna asked looking at him oddly. Naruto gulped. Oh Tsunami that smells good, what you make? Eggs and some fish with rice, she smiled. I hope you're hungry. All the time, he grinned stupidly and patted his belly. Growing boys got to eat. Naruto? What about? Hey Inari. So what ninja training you done so far? Kunai throwing, taijutsu, exercise, he smiled. Little people know how to use chakra around here so it's been hard. Hey, could you show me some jutsus? I think I can show you the basics. Inari, Naruto just got here, Tsunami sighed. And you have school to go to as well. You better get going before you're late. Oh yay, he said jumping up and running to the door. I'll see you when I get back Ni-chan. Sure thing, Naruto waved as Inari left the house. He's got energy that's for sure. All kids do, Tsunami smiled. Reminds me a lot of you when you first came here all those years ago. That bad Naruto grinned. Naruto, Tazuna said calmly. Now that Inari is gone. Care to tell us what's wrong? He blinked. What do you mean? Don't try and fool this old wolf. I can tell there's something off, not to mention that slash mark across your forehead protector. Naruto looked down at the ground as the adults looked at him with concern. He knew this would come eventually, but he didn't really prepare for it fully. They deserved to know what has happened in the past 3 years. With a deep sigh, he sat straight and looked at them full on. Things have been bad over the years. How bad? Tazuna blinked. I heard that the sound and sand tried to invade the leaf but failed. There's more to it than that, Naruto smiled sadly. To answer your question about my forehead protector, it's a mark of banishment. Banishment, they shouted. What for? I'll start from the beginning. Naruto unzipped his coat revealing a simple white shirt covered in a black armor vest. It all started 17 years ago when the Kyuubi attacked the leaf. After 3 hours, Naruto had informed them of everything that had transpired over the 3 years and the secret of the Kyuubi. The 2 adults were shocked to learn that their village savior had the greatest of the tailed demons sealed in him. They were even more shocked to learn about what happened to Sasuke and what Sakura said to him. Tsunami had moved from her spot to sit beside Naruto and hugged him while Tazuna had grabbed a few bottles of sake and downed them. They were disgusted by the leaf. How could they not see this boy as anything but a hero for the great things he's accomplished? I had the right mind to cancel our alliance with the leaf now, Tazuna growled. Treating a child in such a way. Don't, Naruto sighed. I don't blame them for hating me. They needed an outlet for their anger. I was the best candidate for it. It's still wrong, he yelled slamming his fist on the table. I can't change what happened. I just have to keep going moving on. You can stay for as long as you need, Tsunami said stroking his hair. We have more than enough room here, and besides, I know Inari would love having his Ni-chan around again. Thanks, I appreciate it. No problem, she said getting up. You ought to get to town Otto-san. You're late as it is. You're right, the old man stood up. Care to join me my boy? Take your mind off things for a while. I'd like that. Sure, just leave the woman home to do the chores. I can give you a hand if you want, Naruto offered. No it's all right, go into town. Well, Naruto smiled. I can do both you know. What? Kage Bushin no Jitsu. 2 copies of Naruto popped into existence and grinned at Tsunami. She jumped back in shock while Tazuna blinked in confusion. They're just illusions? How can they help? Kage Bushin allows me to make solid clones, Naruto grinned. Great for training, labor, and tactics. Amazing, Tsunami poked one of them. They are real. Just be careful with them. They have enough chakra to last for a few hours but don't overload them. We can hack it boss, Clone 1 said. Yay chill out we got this, the other smiled. Alright then. Let's go, Tazuna said with Naruto in tow. So why didn't you use that when we were building the bridge? I'll just have to put you to work today then. Crap. For the rest of the day Naruto was with Tazuna as he gave him a tour around the town and put him to work at the construction sites. With Naruto they make 3 days progress in hours and was offered a position on the team. Word had spread like wildfire that the great Naruto had come back to the village and everyone was dire to meet him. Naruto was simply dumbfounded by the people's reactions and greetings. He was always used to getting the short end of the stick, so it was a nice change. So the two men began walking back to the house for a nice dinner. To bed Inari had another plan as half of his friends from school decided to stop by and see the hero himself. Not wanting to disappoint the children, he gave them a small demonstration of the things a ninja could do by performing a few basic jutsus. By the end of a lovely dinner that Tsunami prepared, the children went home and Naruto began showing Inari the basics in academy standards. He caught on quickly to the taijutsu but had some problems focusing his chakra for the first real time. At the end of their training he was able to create a poor henge of his grandfather. With Inari's energy spent, we went up to bed, soon followed by Tazuna and the both Tsunami and himself. I laid everything out for you, she said opening the door. Do you have any idea how long you'll be staying? Not too long. I don't want to get you guys in trouble by my presence. What do you mean? Those guys that are hunting people like me. They'll learn that I was banished and coming looking for me soon. I won't put this place in danger after all that's happened. You don't have to worry. Stay as long as you need to. Thank you. Naruto smiled. Good night Tsunami-san. Good night Naruto. She closed the door and Naruto was left alone with his thoughts. As silently as he could he changed his clothes and lay down on the futon. It didn't take long for him to doze off and soon found himself in a large room with a wet floor. Hello Kit. Kyuubi. There standing behind a gate of gold bars was the nine-tailed demon, the Kyuubi no Yuko. He was a giant, even in terms of summoning, with orange-red fur, crimson eyes and ivory-white teeth. His chakra flared wildly about him in a fire-like manner as he looked down at his jailer. What do you want? Naruto asked crossing his arms. Oh? Do I need a reason to summon a waste of flesh like yourself? Get to the point Fox. Still bitching about being banished, Kyuubi mused. Don't tell me you didn't see it coming. You know they were looking for a reason to do something like this. Did you believe that Hag you call a Hokage could protect you? It's Tsunade to you. Naruto growled. It doesn't matter. What matters is what we're going to do now. What? Think you baka? Those fiends from Akatsuki will be looking for you soon and that fool Jiraiya isn't here to help you. You're still too weak to defend yourself against them. I'll manage. Shut up and listen to me. Kyuubi leaned down so he was eye level. You need to get stronger but still it won't be enough. Your disgusting body can only take so much of my chakra so you'll need allies. Go on. The old Jinchuriki Gaara is a good start. He even managed to become Case Cage so he can protect us from maggots and trash. From there we can start working on a way to kill those fools in Akatsuki. Sounds like a plan, Naruto said rubbing his head. There's a reason why you're being so obedient. Watch you tongue human. If you die then I die and I'm not willing to perish yet. Go to Suna and ask that Gaara for aid or whatever. Once you do, we'll go from there. Whatever, Naruto yawned. Is that all? I'd like to get some sleep. Baka, you already are asleep. Oh, anyway I'm outta here. Naruto began walking away. Brat, furball. He snorted then faded away into a dreamless sleep. A few days had passed since Naruto had his little talk with the fox and decided it was time to head to Suna. During his stay in Wave, his time was spent helping Inari with his training or giving Tazuna free labor at the job sites. All in all, it was a nice change of pace and helped him forget what happened. When it came time to leave, Inari cried up a storm and pleaded for him to stay, as well as his grandfather. The two, after a few hours of trying, gave in and wished him luck. Before he left, he made a few scrolls for Inari explaining the basic jutsus and training he would need for the academy. Sealing the rest of his belongings and throwing them in his bag, he headed towards the docks. It would have been faster for him to get to Suna by foot, but he didn't want to run into patrolling Leaf Nin. Hearing his unspoken concern, Tazuna offered see if he could get him passage on a boat. It seemed that Wind Country had a trade agreement with Wave and shipped them all sorts of items. Thanking the old man, Naruto was surprised that not only did he got a spot on the ship, but he nor Tazuna had to pay anything. Seemed the town was willing to offer anything the blonde needed. So, with a small send-off from the town's folk, Naruto set sail towards Suna. News of Naruto's status spread though the leaf faster than Tsunade thought it would. The villagers, overloaded with joy, had a celebration in the courtyard in front of the Hokage Tower. It took 3 squads of Anbu to keep Tsunade and Jiraiya from sending the villagers to the next world. When Naruto's friends caught wind of what happened, they were shocked without a doubt. They all in some way affected by the fact that the hyperactive blonde was gone. Choji was a little put off that after being away from his friend for 3 years was gone again. Naruto was one of the few people in the academy that played with him, the others being Shikamaru. Now who was going to challenge him to ramen eating contests? Ino, not knowing him very well, didn't seem so affected, but he was a fellow shinobi and a fellow blonde. Sakura, feeling guilty over causing him to leave, shut herself in her room. It wasn't till the combined effort of Ino and Sakura's parents that she finally came out. Kiba tried to hide the fact that he missed the blonde idiot, but everyone knew he did. Akamaru was a little put down too. Sai didn't react at all. He shrugged his shoulders and asked who was going to fill in his spot of the team. He was chased over the village by Tsunade for that. Shino didn't react to the information, he never really reacted to anything. Neji knew something was wrong with the picture. Naruto was one of the few people that could actually go toe-to-toe with him. Not to mention that he was the first person that wasn't a Hyuga or a Junin to beat him. Tenten, like Ino, only worked with Naruto a few times, but was stunned to learn he left the village. Lee cried for days going on about flames of youth and whatnot. Neji and Tenten got annoyed with him, so they constantly tried to get his mind off it with training. Hinata was crushed by the information. All those years of being apart, and now there seemed to be an unbreakable wall between them. It took a few days for the other Hyuga to get her to leave her room. Making a silent promise to herself the next time she saw him, she would finally tell him her secret, and never lose sight of him. Shikamaru knew there was something wrong right off the bat. Naruto was an unpredictable moron, but a deserter he wasn't. Wrapping his mind about what could have happened, he needed more information in order to understand what really happened. Troublesome. He sighed, lighting a cigarette. Where are you now, Uzumaki? Where are you now? Finally, Naruto stood on top of a sand dune looking at the large wall that was the path to Suna. The last time he was here was during the mission to rescue Gaara, and how close he came to losing his friend. Pushing the thought away, he allowed a smile to dawn his face as he ran top speed towards the gate. It took the ship 6 days to reach the harbor at Wind's Coast. He spent most of his time training his taijutsu and helping the crew with his cage bushin. It was boring most of the time but focused on training. It didn't take long to get to where he was after they docked. So after thanking the crew again and helping them unload their cargo, that was when he was asked to escort the supplies heading to Suna. Ops, Naruto laughed, stopping. Almost forgot about that. Turning around and running back up the dune, he waited for the wagons to catch up. The wagons in question were being pushed by the merchants and a few of his clones. Normally, he would have sent a clone ahead for the scouting, but felt like stretching his legs a bit. Finally catching up to him, they made their way towards the gate. It took an hour to finally get there, and the merchants slumped in fatigue. State your business, a guard asked. Shipment from the harbor, the leader said. Here are our papers. Everything seems in order. He handed the papers back and looked at the travelers. Cage bushin? Oh, Naruto blushed. Yay, that's me, I'm escorting the goods. And you are? Uzumaki. Naruto. Uzumaki, one of the watchmen laughed. I thought I recognized you. What are you doing here? Came to see Gaara. Stick around for a bit maybe. I see. You're free to go in, he told the merchants. I'll escort you to the tower, Uzumaki-san. Thanks. Later guys. The merchants gave their thanks to him as he and the guards sped off to the tower. It didn't take them long to get there and were soon standing at the office door. Cage-sama is free at the moment, a Chunin said. Hold on 1 second. The Chunin entered the office and came out a few moments later. Getting the okay to go in, Naruto and the guard entered the office and stood face to face with the Godem Cage Gaara. Gaara had changed a bit since the last time they met. For starters, the black around his eyes wasn't so defined now, and his hair was a bit longer too. He was wearing a blue cage uniform and sat behind a dark-colored desk. At his sides were his brother and sister Tamari and Kankuro. Tamari was wearing her black battle kimono with her fan on her back. Like always, her blonde hair was tied into 4 tails with her forehead protector on her head. Kankuro was wearing his black jumpsuit like normal. The one Naruto could never get was how the family could wear black in the desert. His hood was missing, showing off his red hair, proving the blood relation to Gaara. His face was still painted in that purple color, highlighting his eyes, lips and cheeks. Uzumaki Naruto, Gaara said. What do we owe the pleasure of this visit? Just figured I'd pop in and say hi. I highly doubt that. Gaara narrowed his eyes. There is something else you should explain before my guard kills you? Huh? Naruto felt the guard vanish from his side and the press on a kunai against his jugular. Scolding himself for letting his guard down, he waited for Gaara to continue. Care to explain what happened to your forehead protector? Kankuro asked with a frown. Naruto looked up at the object in question. Well, you see. Answer the question, Uzumaki. The council. They. Out with it. The guard yelled. They banished me, okay. By the look on Tamari and Kankuro's face, it was obvious they were shocked by the news. Gaara, for his credit, remained the same as he looked for signs of lies. Silence filled the office for a few moments before Tamari gained her composure back. Banished? What for? Tisk. Naruto looked away. Take a guess. I see. Gaara said, then raised his hand. The guard released his hold on Naruto and put his kunai away. Seems like Lady Tsunade wasn't able to protect you after all. But, what about the bingo book? Kankuro said. Bingo book? I get all the country's bingo books, he said, pulling Konoha's out. You're in here under the A-ranked shinobi. What? Kankuro walked over and handed him the book with his information. Going over it himself, Naruto felt like tearing the book to pieces, but relaxed and handed it back. Either you're lying, Gaara said. Lying? Why would I lie about something like this? As I was saying, Gaara frowned. Either you are lying. Naruto crossed his arms and growled. Or the council is plotting against you. I doubt it, Tamari grinned. He's too stupid to be lying. Hey, I happen to agree with Tamari, Kankuro said, then grinned. On both parts. You're clearly being set up. Those bastards. Naruto grunted. After all I did for them. Calm down, Uzumaki, Gaara said, leaning forward. We need to figure out what we're going to do about this situation. About time. Naruto jumped at the sound and began looking around the office for the new voice. Seeing now one there, Naruto shrugged it off. Just my imagination. Oh, I bet you wish I was. Okay, who's there? What are you talking about, Uzumaki? Kankuro blinked. That voice. Don't tell me you didn't hear it just now. They can't hear me, fool. Only you can. There it was again. You have to have heard it. How long were you in the desert? Tamari blinked, looking at him like he was crazy. I think the sun fried your brain. He needs a brain to fry first. Hey, take that back. Fine, I'm sorry, she said, then whispered to Gaara. I think he's lost it. No, he said. It's something else. He looked at the guard. Leave the room and make sure no one comes in. Yes, Kage-sama. The guard left. Okay, what the hell is going on? Naruto asked, getting annoyed as Tamari formed some hand seals. If this is a joke of something. You really are fool, the voice growled. I'm the Kyuubi you cur. Kyuubi. I thought so, Gaara sighed. Seems the Kyuubi has started his mental link with you. Shukaku did the same with me while he was sealed. Did you place the jutsu, Tamari? Yeep, she grinned. No one can listen in on us now. Good. Now, what does the Yuko want? Finally a monkey capable of minor intelligence, the fox said. Hey, shut up and listen, or do you not want to know why I told you to come here? And just think your responses unless you like talking to yourself. Hey, Naruto growled. I came here for asylum, right? That was one of the reasons. First ask that previous Jinchuriki if he can still control the Ichibi's power. Why? Just do it. Fine. Naruto sighed. The fox want to know if you can still control the sand, Gaara. I can. Really? Having a demon sealed in you leaves a lasting impression, Gaara said. The Ichibi is gone, but I still have control over a large amount of sand. I thought as much, the fox said. That will be useful in the future. What are you talking about? Akatsuki will come for you, boy. Anywhere I can take pleasure in the thought of you dying when they pull me out of you. The thought of being their puppet is beyond aggravating. I love you too, furball. Silence. As I said, I'm not willing to be their tool. Consider it an honor for a high-class demon like me to lower myself to your level. Get to the point. My point is that you'll have to fight them eventually. With the two of you our chances are small, but if we were to get the last remaining Jinchuriki to join us, then we'd stand a fighting chance. One problem, Fox. How in the hell am I going to find them? The 5 nations are rather big. That's where I come in. We demons have the ability to sense each other, even over a great distance. Unfortunately, I can't feel them here in wind. That would be too easy. How do you propose I look for them? I'm a missing nin if you haven't forgotten. Think of something yourself. I'm going to sleep. You know what to do. Lazy bastard. Blonde. Feeling the fox leave his mind now, Naruto looked at the Sand siblings. They were watching him oddly as if he was about to flip out or something. He's asleep now, he said, getting a sigh of relief from Kankuro. So what did he have to say? Temari asked. Well, Naruto grinned. We're going to get rid of Akatsuki once and for all hopefully. How the hell are we going to do that? Kankuro asked. Simple. Find the last Jinchuriki and get them to help us. You make it sound so simple. Last time I knew, the demons were not on the best of terms. Gaara frowned. Fight with us or fight alone and die, simple enough. Naruto said. You make an interesting proposal, Uzumaki. Akatsuki needs to be dealt with and it seems like a logical solution. How can we help? I need protection from the hunter nin and be able to travel around freely. Some support would be nice and some supplies. Gaara turned and looked out the window. After a few minutes of silence, a small smile found its place on Gaara as he opened his drawer and pulled out a black cloth and then grabbed a piece of paper. You'll be needing this. He tossed the cloth at Naruto, which had a small amount of weight to it. Confused, he examined the cloth and found it had a metal plate with an hourglass carved into it. Looking at Gaara in shock, he opened his mouth to say something but couldn't form the words. Seeing the blonde reaction, the 2 older ninja looked at their little brother in question. Congratulations, Gaara said, writing on the paper. You're officially a ninja of Sanagakure. What? Everyone that was in the room looked at Gaara like he had turned into the Shukaku again. Taking a nuke nin from their allied country into their ranks was a very serious matter, but he didn't seem bothered. It took a few minutes before the shock left the group and Naruto broke the silence first. But, how? It'll take a while to set up, Gaara said, continuing to write. But I think we can offer you some form of protection against the other nations. As a Suna nin, Konoha won't be able to touch you unless they're willing to declare war. Also, it will allow you to travel to places that Konoha can't. Earth Country, for example, Temari grinned. They're under orders to kill Konoha nin on sight, but we have several trade agreements with them as well as Water Country. What about Kumo? Naruto blinked. We haven't dealt with them since the last Shinobi War, Gaara said, grabbing a new piece of paper. They stay out of our business and we do the same. Helps that Fire Country separates us from them. Well, Naruto examined the forehead protector. I guess it's the best course of action. He sighed. What's wrong, Uzumaki? Kankuro asked. Just tell me I won't have to take the Genin exam again. With your qualifications? Temari laughed. I'd worry more about Chunin. The next Chunin exam is happening in Iwa. Kankuro crossed his arms. If memory serves me correctly, we have a team that's short 1 member. Ah yes, Gaara said, allowing a small smile to form. Ashitaka's squad. One of his genin had an accident on his last mission and is stuck in the hospital for the next month. Little bastard got what was coming to him. Naruto looked at Temari. What do you mean by that? Never mind. Kankuro, you talk to Ashitaka while I show Uzumaki around the village, all right? Whatever. One more thing? Where am I staying while I'm here? I'll arrange for you to stay at a hotel for tonight. Tomorrow an apartment shall be assigned. You can meet your new team in my office at 8 a.m. Well, let's go, Temari said, dragging the blonde out of the office. So, Kankuro asked, you think that him being in our ranks be enough to protect him? Probably not. Other messieurs might have to be taken. What you got in mind? Take a look at this. Gaara handed one of the pages he was writing on. Kankuro scanned the paper and let out a small laugh. You think this will be enough? He stands out too much. If it's one thing Uzumaki has taught me, it never to underestimate him. Yay, tell me about it. I guess we'll start with where you're most likely going to be living, Temari said, jumping on the rooftops. This is where the majority of our ninja ranks live. There are 3 other locations like this around the village. Why not just have them all together? Naruto asked. We did at one point, she said, stopping, allowing him to look around. There was incident and a lot of our ninjas were hurt. It was decided that instead of bunching us up together, to divide us up. Not only can we keep a better tab on the villagers this way, we can defend an area of the village faster. Now over here, they leapt to the next area. It's the primary market district. You can buy anything from food to weapons. There are two smaller ones on the other side of the village. Also, a lot of the civilians live around here as they operate the shops. Over there, she pointed to a series of traditional-style buildings separated from the village by a wall. Is the Tanakakai clan district. They're one of the bigger clans around here. They specialize using partners like the Inuzuka. However, instead of dogs they use scorpions. That building over here, she said as they passed it, is the hospital. We don't have a medic nin like Lady Tsunade, but we can fix you up just as good. They stopped again. This is the Kurogami clan. They use a taijutsu style that utilizes wind-type jutsus. They're also the best kenjutsu users in the country. She pointed to another series of buildings near them. That's the Katsuragi clan. They're the physically strongest clan in the nation that are said to rival the Akamichi clan of Konoha. They can also drink anyone under the table from what I hear. The training grounds are located around the perimeter of the village, she said, showing him one. There's mostly desert environments, but there are a few that simulate the nations of Iwa and Konoha. The academy is located between the civilian and ninja districts and the Cage Tower. She said, this allows the non-shinobi families to send their kids to the school and have them close to the tower for protection. I see, Naruto smiled. Seems like a nice place. It is, she smiled, looking at some kid playing. There are a few people that are asses, but hey, all villages have them. I know. Anyway, she said quickly. I don't know about you, but I'm getting hungry. Quote. Naruto's stomach voiced his response for him. Come on, she sighed. I know a good place. They got ramen there? Maybe, she shrugged. I never checked. So where do you think Naruto's hiding? Honestly, he could be anywhere. Jiraiya downed some sake. When we traveled, I showed him the locations of my safe houses. On top of that, from what his mission files say, he has friends in Yuki, Nano, Suna, Wave, Sea, and even Rice Country. Tsunade sighed, knowing how well it was true. The clients that Naruto worked under over the years were beyond impressed with the mission outcomes. It seemed that everywhere he went left a lasting impression. A pity his home village didn't see he was a valuable asset to Konoha. It's times like this I regret coming back here. Don't think like that, Tsunade, her old teammate said. Naruto would want you to stay and do what's best for the village. Besides, he might show up again someday. He is after all the most unpredictable knuckled-headed ninja. Yay, she said, looking at her bottle. Be safe out there, Naruto. And that's when Iruka-sensei caught me, Naruto grinned. I can't believe you, Temari laughed. You painted the Hokage monument and had Chunin and Anbu after you for an hour. All this before you were even a genin? Yeep. I had to improvise my stealth tactics on the fly most of the time, but they worked. He smiled, taking a bit of sushi. She was about to fall out of her seat when a carrier bird landed and dropped a message. Reading over the note, she grinned and destroyed it. Naruto the whole time was oblivious to what was going on, looked at her as the bird vanished. Seems like we have one more thing to take care of, Uzumaki. Oh, come on, she said, slapping some money on the table. We got some shopping to do. Shopping? Trust me, she grabbed the back of his jacket. I think you'll like this. Wah. He was unable to finish his sentence as he was pulled off the stool and in the air. Temari wasn't a Junin for nothing, as she easily pulled him as she jumped across the rooftops. It didn't take long before they reached their destination. Standing upright, Naruto looked at the shop in front of him. It looked rather simple, with a window displaying some shinobi clothes, and a wooden door. Written on the glass was, Shinobi Tactical Gear and Supplies. Don't just stand there all day, she said, pulling him in. Come on. A bell rang as the door opened, signaling the person behind the counter of their presence. She was a simple-looking woman with long dark purple hair and black eyes. An apron was tied around her front, covering a pale brown kimono. Welcome, she said. How may I help you today? As you can clearly see, Temari said, pointing to Naruto. My friend has no taste in clothing. Temari. I see, the woman giggled. I think we can help him out. Is there a look you were going for? He's not used to the desert, Temari said as they walked deeper into the store. Something light that breathes, but also offers protection. Earth tones would be nice, and please, no bright orange. I happen to like orange, he pouted. Tell that to the enemy. I think I have something, the woman said, grabbing some clothes off the rack. Go put these on in there. Go on. Naruto was gently pushed into the small dressing room without a chance to complain. When he came out a few minutes later, he was dressed in a pair of pants the same color as the saleswoman's kimono. His white shirt was a bit baggy in his opinion, but waited to see what the girls thought. That will do for the time being, Tamari said. I'll take 3 more paras like that and throw in some face masks, gloves and a cloak. Yes ma'am, she said, preparing the order. Care to tell me why I'm dressed like this? Naruto asked with a frown. This is your temporary uniform, she said simply. Your name will draw too much attention as well as your clothes. I'm not following. I'll tell you more when we get to the hotel. That will be 50,000 yen, she said, handing them the bag. Naruto was about to complain when Tamari placed the money on the counter and tossed him the bag. Let's go. Okay, now can you tell me what's going on? They had arrived at the hotel that Gaara had set up for him. It was a all-right place for short notice. It had a small bed, a table, nightstand and dresser. It reminded Naruto of his old house in Konoha, but there was more pressing matters. Starting tomorrow you're no longer Uzumaki Naruto, she said, leaning on the wall. Your new name is Kaiyusuke. Kaiyusuke? He groaned. Who came up with this? Gaara? Shut up, she growled. Anyway, you're an orphan, and you've been on a training mission in Konoha. If anyone asks, tell them it was classified by the case cage. Wear the clothes we got today at the meeting tomorrow and wear the mask too. Those whisker marks draw too much attention. Kakashi-sensei would be laughing his ass off, he chuckled. Anything else, Tamari? Yay, you can't use your Rasengan or related jutsus. Kage Bushin is pushing it but should be alright. Damn, anything else? Take off that, she pointed to his head. You're a Suna Nen now. Also, it would be wise if you didn't use that power. Naruto sighed and removed his forehead protector. He remembered when Iruka gave it to him after beating Mizuki, but that seems so long ago now. He was so lost in thought that he almost missed Tamari calling him. Huh? I said remember to be there for 8 a.m. Gaara dislikes tardiness. Alright, he said, plopping down on the bed. Brat, she growled and opened the door. Tamari? Yay, what is it? Quote. Thanks for showing me around today. You're welcome. With that said, she closed the door, leaving him alone with his thoughts. It would seem that living in Suna would take a while to get used to. It felt so odd for him to be walking down the streets and not have people cursing you. It reminds me of Wave, he thought. But the people here just think I'm a regular shinobi. He smiled to himself and closed his eyes. Maybe it won't be so bad here. It was a nice morning in Sanagakure as the sun broke over the horizon and began warming the cool night air. The villagers started opening their shops around this time and went about their business. For the residents of the West District, their morning peace was disrupted by the cry of a young male broke through the air. Looking around for the sound, they got an amusing show as a man started jumping across the rooftops dressing himself. He continued to curse and swear as he made his way to the tower as the villagers laughed. Now fully dressed in his clothes, Naruto ran down the halls of the case cage tower and skidded to a halt in front of Gaara's door. Can I help you, sir? I'm Uzu. He breathed. You're? Uzu. I mean Kaiyusuke, Naruto cursed for almost slipping up. I have a meeting with Gaara and I'm late. Late? She said, looking in her book. Your team meeting is booked for 8 a.m. Yay, and it's 8:30. Sir, it's only 7:50. Huh, but my alarm clock. Kaiyusuke. You're too loud in the morning. Kaiyusuke looked to his right to see Gaara with his brother and sister. They stood there looking at him with a slightly amused expression as Tamari tried to keep from laughing. We had Tamari change the time on your clocks, Kankuro grinned. I knew you'd be late, so we took the necessary precautions. You, he growled. Just get in my office, Gaara said. I hope you continue to be early from now on or exactly on time. Is that clear? Sure thing, Gaara. Tamari frowned and cleared her through. Naruto looked at her for a second, then realized his mistake. I mean, Case Kage-sama. Gaara nodded his approval and they all entered his office. Dropping his shoulders when the door closed, the frowned at Tamari. You changed my clocks? Yeep. Don't cry over it, Gaki. I'm going to get you back, you know that, right? I'd like to see you try, she challenged. Save the bickering for another time, Kankuro said, crossing his arms. Your teammates should be here any minute. Who are they again? That's a surprise, he said. That mask should cover the stupid looks you get on your face from now on. Works better than face paint. You got something to say? Enough, Gaara said. You said yourself to stop the bickering, Kankuro. Start setting an example. Yes, Gaara. Good. The door opened and in walked a tall man wearing a Junin vest. His head was wrapped in a white cloth with a few strands of brown hair popping out and a white face mask like himself. He wore the normal Junin uniform of black pants and jacket and had his kunai holder on his right leg and a few extra pouches on his belt. Asukataka, Gaara greeted, then mentioned to Naruto. This is your new student Kaiyusuke. Ah yes, he said, looking at young ninja. I hope being in Konoha for so long hasn't rusted your skills any. I'll let my skills speak for themselves, Asukataka-sensei. I hope you do, he said. Stand over there till the rest of your team reports in. You'll be introduced then. Yes, sensei. Just as Naruto got to his spot on the wall, the door burst opened and two people came crashing in. The tallest of the two was a woman with black hair tied into a ponytail and sand-colored eyes. She was wearing a light purple gi that hugged her body in the right spots, with a black fishnet suit under it. She tied it off with a black sash and a black pair of ninja sandals. To complete her look, she had a set of swords on her waist in green sheaths. The second had mop-like brown hair and matching eyes. She wore a white fishnet undershirt with a white tank top and a sand top jacket. She wore a pair of sand shorts with white shin guards and sand-colored sandals. She had a kunai pouch on both her legs and an extra attachment on her belt. Watch where you're going, you fool, the tall one said. You got in my way, the other said. If you hadn't bumped into me in the first place, we wouldn't have been in a rush. You bumped into me. It was you. Good, you're on time for once, Asukataka sighed, stopping the argument. Now fall in. Yes, Asukataka-sensei, they said, glared at each other, then stepped up. You both aware of the situation your team is currently in, Gaara said. With Oda in the hospital till further notice, you can't compete in the Chunin exam. But, however, Gaara continued, we have a genin in need of a team and you have a convenient opening. Kaiyusuke. The girls turned their head as Naruto walked up to them. He could tell the one in purple was sizing him up by the way she looked at him. The other one had a confused look on her face. This shall be your new teammate for now, Gaara said. He'll be with you till the end of the Chunin exams and depending on Oda's status, will continue to function to act as his stand-in. I expect you two to show him some courtesy. He directed the last part at the purple one. Yes, Kazekage-sama, they said. Good. Asukataka, they're in your hands. Thank you, Kazekage-sama, he bowed and addressed his team. Move out. Yes, sensei, they said. Now then, Asukataka said as they got to a training area. Seeing we have a new team member, we should all get to know each other again. I am Asukataka. I like progress and training. I dislike when people are foolish, arrogant and disrespectful. I hope to continue to serve my village and Kazekage-sama. I'm Kurigami Asuka, the tall one said. I like training, my katanas and my baby brother. I hate stupid people and cheap weapons. I plan on surpassing my mother and becoming the leader of my clan. I'm Maya, the other one greeted with a small smile. I like training and watching the sun rise. I dislike people who kill for no reason and perverts. My dream is to become an Anbu to protect Kazekage-sama. My name is Kaiyusuke. Naruto smiled, not realizing he still had a mask on. I like training, pulling pranks, and ramen. I dislike the time it takes to cook ramen and those who hurt the people precious to me. My dream is to become Kag. He stopped his sentence for a second and thought that over. Could he still become Hokage now? He was technically a nuke nen, but maybe there was still hope. Maybe in the future, Tsunade or someone will find out what really happened. But until then, all he could do was hope that he could still become Hokage. My dream is to become Kage, and to see that all the people I care about be happy and safe. He finished looking at the clouds. Good, Asukataka said, jumping onto a rock. I need to see what level you're at, Kaiyusuke. So, I want you to spare against Asuka. Yes, sensei, she said, taking a stance. Good luck, Maya said. I'll finish this guy off without breaking a sweat. Ready? Asukataka said, looking at Naruto, who took a closed fist stance. Yes, sensei. They said. Begin. Both fighters began their battle, testing their taijutsu. Asuka's style seemed to be an abrasive. Spinning, she then bended around his attacks, looking for an opening to strike from. She was the better, and they both knew it as she delivered a powerful combo that sent him back 10 feet. Wow, he said, gaining his balance. The Kurogami style is impressive. Compliments won't help you, she frowned. He blinked and readied his hands. How about we kick this up a notch? Try, she said, taking another stance. I think you'll find it to be pointless. Well then, he said, making hand seals. Try this. Kaden. Gukakyu no Jitsu. Getting over her shock from the attack, Asuka just dodged the massive fireball. She didn't even notice his seals till he called out his attack. There was no way a genin could form seals that fast and no way use that amount of chakra and not be winded. How did he do that? Maya gasped. I didn't even see his seals. I think Asuka is in for an interesting fight, Ashitaka said, frowning. Seems Kaiyusuke is holding back. Garrett told me he was impressive. There was a path of smooth glass running beside Asuka ending at a large boulder. The fire was hot enough to melt the sand. The trail was a good 40 feet long and 5 feet wide. Not bad, Asuka said, forming her own seals. Zankuha no Jitsu. Asuka made an open palm strike that sent a gale-force blast of wind at Kaiyusuke. The wind hit his full force and knocked him back into a boulder. Pressing her advantage, Asuka covered the distance between them and went for a point-blank attack with another Zankuha. Gaining his composure, Kaiyusuke kicked her off him a second before the attack hit, sending it into the sky. Both fighters got into their feet and began circling each other at speeds rivaling low chunin. Seems like you're not half as bad as you look, Asuka grinned. However, I think it's time I show you why the Kurogami clan are held in high regard. She placed a hand on one of her swords and removed it from its sheath. It was normal-looking katana with a long silver blade and black guard and pommel with a green hilt. Narrowing his eyes, Kaiyusuke readied himself with a set of kunai and took a stance. I hope you're ready, she said. Kaiyusuke tilted his head in reply, signaling he was good to go. A small smile appeared on Asuka's face as she raised her blade to her side and vanished. Sensing the chakras surge from behind, Naruto twisted out of the way as Asuka slashed with her sword. Using his momentum, Kaiyusuke went to slash with his kunai, only to find it blocked with another sword. Asuka came around with her free blade and went for a horizontal slash, but Kaiyusuke blocked it with his free kunai. You can poke someone's eye out like that, you know, Kaiyusuke grunted. Watch out or you'll be missing something just as valuable. Naruto smiled under his mask as she pushed him away with her foot. Standing a good 20 feet from each other, both parties prepared for their final attack. Knowing he couldn't use his Rasengan, we went for the next best thing and began molding his chakra. However, before he could use his Jitsu, Asuka beat him to the punch. Kamaitachi no Jitsu. Asuka cried, slashing with her swords. Kaiyusuke was blown back into the ground as the chakra-enforced wind cut his clothes and buried him in sand. A cloud of smoke covered the area for a few moments before being cleared away from a minor wind blast. Popping his head up from the dune of sand that covered him, Kaiyusuke chuckled as Ashitaka jumped between them. That's all I need to see, he said, looking at Asuka. I see you've learned the Kamaitachi no Jitsu. Yes, sensei, she gasped. Although it takes a lot out of my reserves at the moment. I noticed. Have you been working on those chakra control exercises? Yes, sensei. He looked doubtful, then looked at Naruto. You did well to last this long against Asuka, genin or not. I think you won't hold them back in the exam. Thank you, Ashitaka-sensei, Naruto said. You seem to have an abnormal amount of chakra for a genin, he continued. Have you mastered tree walking while on your last assignment? I've just gotten water walking down. It was a small lie on his part, but he thought it would be best not to show all his cards yet. True, he did master water walking, but it was over 4 years ago when Ebisu showed him. Water walking? Maya blinked. You can walk on water? Not a lot of genin know how, Ashitaka explained. It takes a lot of chakra and completion of the tree walking. Wow, so he can walk on water, Asuka said, getting her breath back. I don't go bragging about what I know how to do. I wasn't bragging, Kaiyusuke pouted. Baka, what you say? Baka, why you? Enough, Ashitaka yelled, getting their attention. Stop acting like children and more like ninja. Now, we have a minor D-rank mission to perform. A mission? Maya piped in. I thought we were going to focus on our training? We were, he shrugged. But Cage-sama gave this to me personally. The Cage? Seems we're to clean out and paint an apartment that's been assigned to our new team member. We're helping this bum move. Asuka growled. Are you sure about that, sensei? Kaiyusuke asked, dusting himself off. I mean, I don't want to bother them on the first day. It a mission, Kaiyusuke, Ashitaka frowned. I already accepted it. Yes, sensei. I can't believe this. Asuka sighed. Could this day get any worse? What is this? I think it's my apartment. Naruto sighed. Team 6 looked into the apartment that now belonged to Kaiyusuke. On the way there, they stopped by the hotel and got the clothes Bibao the other day. When Asuka asked about the orange rags on the floor, he said they were in the room when he got there. The apartment, though, for lack of a better word, was a bump. Trash covered the whole floor from view for starters, making the team use their tree walking lessons to keep them from touching the gross floor. The worst thing about the place was the smell. They wondered if they would find a dead body in the rubble, it was so bad. It showed on the walls too, as a stain could be seen, trailing up the off-white structure. This is so humiliating, Asuka said, holding her nose. I feel sorry for you, Kaiyusuke-san, Maya said, opening a window. This is going to take a while, he said from the kitchen. I don't even want to see what the bedroom is like. Bedrooms, Ashitaka said down the hall. You got a spare and a full bathroom. This is usually a Junin apartment, so feel lucky. Oh yay, Kaiyusuke snorted. This is living it up. Just get to work. Yes, sensei, they groaned and got to work. It took them most of the day, but they got it done. After the grueling process of cleaning the floor, which Asuka refused to help with, it went smoothly from there. It seemed that Maya knew a few helpful jutsus for cleaning. While they were intended to be used for combat, she used a small-scale Suiten jutsu to clean the floors and walls. After that was done, Asuka would use a futon jutsu in corporation with a controlled Kaiden jutsu from Naruto to blow warm air. With the floors and walls clean, maintenance was now to be done. The biggest issue was what color to paint the walls. Naruto wanted a simple white color or something close, while Asuka suggested a deep blue. The two bickered over it for a few minutes till Maya added her 2 cents. Isn't this Kaiyusuke's place? She said, shutting them up. He should choose. Calling Naruto a baka for wanting a light color started the fight again between the two till Ashitaka had enough and chose a pale green for them. Satisfied with the solution, the group painted the whole apartment except for the large bedroom, which remained the off-white color. Getting furniture in the place was the next step. It seemed Ashitaka was given a small fortune by Gaara for the task, so money wasn't an issue. Once again, Asuka argued with Naruto over the style of furniture, but as quickly stomped out by Ashitaka. An hour later and a handful of ceiling scrolls later, Team 6 found themselves moving the new furniture around the apartment. A sand-colored couch and matching chair sat in the living room around a rectangular low table near the round windows. In the large bedroom, Naruto pushed his bed to the far wall under the window with his dresser and bookshelf close to it. It was sparse, but given time he would add his own touch to make it home. Finally, Asuka sighed, sitting on the couch. You know, this place is bigger than it looks, Maya said, leaving the kitchen. Think I can get a place like this, sensei? I doubt it, he said, crossing his arms. Mine's the same size as this one and I had to almost kill someone for it. Good one, sensei, Naruto said, landing beside Asuka. I think he wasn't kidding. Maya whispered to Asuka. I wouldn't be surprised, she said. Can we go home now, sensei? Yes, he said, walking to the door. Good, Asuka said, getting up, then glared at Naruto. You owe me for this, baka. So don't forget it. But this was a mission. I don't care. This wasn't free. Asuka-san. Maya sighed. I'm out of here, she said, stomping off. And I still say you should have gone with the blue. Girls are crazy. Naruto sighed, getting a giggle from Maya. Is she always like that? I'm afraid so. If it's any conciliation, Oda brought out the worst in her. Great, he said as his stomach grumbled. I guess it's time to eat. We did skip lunch, she said, shrugging. Guess I'll head out. Well, he began. If you got no plans. Want to get some ramen or something? I guess, she said, thinking, then smiled. I can't remember the last time I had ramen, actually. Sure, Yata, he said, jumping to his feet. Ramen with Maya-chan. Maya blushed a little at the suffix to her name as they left the apartment. Naruto, focusing on the thought of ramen and starting a conversation with his new teammate, didn't notice a pair of eyes watching them from above. Over the past 3 weeks, Naruto trained with Asuka and Maya for the Chunin exams. As Naruto adapted to living in Sanagakure and got to know the village geography, Ashitaka drilled teamwork and tactics into him and his teammates. Now, they stood on the border between wind and earth. There was a natural divider between the two countries going right from sand to stones, sharp rocks, and hills. It seemed that Earth Country lived up to its name. Naruto stood there with his teammates, with the company of 2 other teams chosen for the exam. Looking at the other teams, Naruto frowned and looked away. He had tried to get to know the other genin team over the past 3 weeks, but it seemed that a lot of the ninja in didn't seem all too friendly. Sighing to himself, Naruto stretched and sat down on a rock. As they trained, they went out on missions to help improve their teamwork. It was a shaky start at first, but they eventually were able to get over their differences. Now, with some cash in his pocket, Naruto went out and got himself some better clothes. He now wore a pair of black pants with a white fishnet shirt and a sand-colored jacket. He still kept the black face mask on and his forehead protector as a bandana. They seemed to be taking their sweet time getting here. Asuka growled, tapping her foot. "They'll get here when they get here," Ashitaka said from his scroll. "We've been here for 6 hours already," he growled. "You would think that they'd at least be punctual seeing they're hosting the exams. And you should be more patient seeing they're allowing us to participate in the exam in the first place." "Sensei." Asuka-san. Maya sighed. She was sitting on the ground, using the rock Naruto was sitting on as a backrest. "You're not helping matters." "She is right though," Naruto said, lowering his head. "See Maya, even the baka agrees with me." She smirked in triumph. "Asuka-san." Maya shook her head. "Looks like we don't have to wait much longer," one of the other Junin said. Snapping their attention to the horizon, they saw 3 men running towards their location. As they got closer, it seemed like they had seen better days. All 3 of them were supporting an injury in some form or another. The Junin of the group had his face wrapped in bandages, showing one green eye. The 2 Chunin at his side and cuts and scraps all over them. "What happened?" Ashitaka asked them when they arrived. "We were ambushed by a group of missing nin on our way here," the Junin said. "We dealt with them, but there were 2 who were with some skill. That's the reason why we were held up. My apologies for any troubles." "Nothing to worry about," Ashitaka said, putting his scroll away. "You want to rest for a few minutes and heal your injuries? If you have a soldier pill that would be welcomed." The Chunin smiled sheepishly. "My medical kit got destroyed in the battle. Here," a sand Junin tossed him some pills. "Many thanks." The Junin bowed slightly and swallowed the pill. "Shall we?" The Suna Nins nodded and they made their way. After 3 days hard travel, the group finally reached Iwagakure no Sato on time. The trip had been uneventful for them, hitting no snags along the way. The Iwa Nin kept to themselves mostly, save for the Junin who had a few conversations with the others his rank. The Genin stayed together, as did the 2 Chunin, not interested at all in getting to know each other. As Naruto gazed at the city, he couldn't help but wonder why it looked so small. It had to have been at least a fourth the size of Suna. It was built around a series of random boulders and giant rocks, which also served as the wall that protected the small village. Could this small village really have caused so much trouble for Konoha in the past? Shrugging it off, Naruto joined the others in the dash to the main gate, which upon arriving, handed their identification papers to the guards. After making sure everything was in line, they made their way towards the largest boulder in the village. It was marked with the symbol for Earth, easily identifying it as the Tsuchikage office. As they made their way, Naruto noticed a few frowns and shocked looks they were getting from the villagers. Not surprising, seeing so many foreign shinobi in your village was a bit unsettling. Naruto remembered the first time he took the Chunin exams, when he saved Konohamaru and the Konohamaru Corps from Kankuro. The distant memory brought a smile to his face, that went unnoticed cause of his mask. It wasn't long before they arrived at the front of the office and the Junin addressed them. "All right then," Ashitaka said. "I guess you're ready for the first part of the exam. Proceed to room 389 and await further instructions. We'd trust you to do your best and hope to hear good results from all of you." "Yes, sensei," came the reply from the Genin, and they made their way into the tower. Finding the room was far too easy in Naruto's opinion. Last time he took the exam there was a genjutsu and a few actors to help thin out the numbers, but this time there was nothing. Either he was the only one that noticed this or the others were really good at hiding their reactions. There was already shinobi in the room, the majority from Iwa. There were a few from Taki, Kusa and AIM, as well as Kiri, Kumuri, and even a team from Kumo. There was one team that Naruto didn't notice the symbol of, but it seemed that the Kumo team did, going by the glares they gave them. Seating themselves, the Suna team watched as more shinobi entered the room as the time passed. The room was full now, every seat was taken, making a total of 240 shinobi, 80 teams. He could tell that Asuka was getting tired of waiting by the tapping of her foot. Seemed that a few others were getting annoyed as well, some from Asuka's foot tapping. Just as he was about to talk to her, multiple pops alerted him to the arrival of the proctors. "All right, let's get this over with, shall we?" A man wearing a black jacket and a black uniform said. His hair was black as were his eyes and his face was covered in scars. The worst one ran across his face from his left temple to the right side of his jaw. "My name isn't important," he went on. "Seeing that none of you look worthy enough of becoming Chunin, I don't give my name to trash like you runts." A collective wave of killing intent washed over the room in his direction, but he simply sneezed and tilted his head. "Disappointing," he sighed. "I was hoping for at least some entertainment. Shut you piehole and get on with it already." A Kumuri nin shouted. "So eager to fail are you? Every well. Here are the rules." He formed a ram seal and touched the chalkboard behind him. "These are the rules. You will follow them to the letter. If you break the first rule starting now, it will mean you fail, and you have to wait another 6 months before you can attempt to become Chunin." He was met with silence. "Good children. The rules are simple. You have 1 hour to write down the answers on the paper. If you're caught cheating 3 times, you and your team fail, no exceptions. It's a collective effort on your team's part. You need at least 50 to pass. However, if a member of your team fails all the questions, you all fail. No exceptions." "Ass," came the reply of a Taki nen. The man smiled as the boy and his teammates were grabbed from the ground and pulled through the floor. "First rule, remember," he smiled. "Now begin." He formed another ram seal and a test form appeared in front of all the genin. Naruto flipped over his sheet and went over the questions. The tactics would be easy enough, as well as the theoretical jitsu. If he came across Jiraiya in the future, he would have to thank him for giving him a somewhat proper education while traveling. Some of the historical questions seemed to focus around Iwa, but one drew his attention. What was the name of the Konoha nin that murdered 300 innocent civilians, and the 2 original barbaric jutsus that he developed during the war? Fighting the urge to pick a fight with everyone in Iwa, Naruto wrote everything required for the answer and everything else he could fit in the box about the 4th Hokage. Tossing a look at his teammates' papers, he noticed that Maya was nearly finished with hers. Seemed the girl was smart as well as reliable, getting a smile from Naruto. Asuka, however, had simply looked at the ceiling while Naruto observed her. She didn't seem too worried about the exam. Did she know something they didn't? As confused as he was, he knew Asuka was up to something, so he let her be and continued on his own paper. Just as he put down his pencil, did a kunai come flying across the room from one of the proctors. Looking at it, it seemed it would pass him and hit the guy's paper that sat behind him. However, he was bored at the moment, so he grabbed the kunai with his finger and flicked it back at the proctor that threw it. "You little shit," the man shouted, holding the scratch on this cheek. "You want me to fail you for attacking a proctor?" Naruto remained silent but began writing on the back of his teak paper. "Answer me, you little shit." Holding up his paper at the proctor, the man could see what he had writing down. Throwing a kunai in a room full of shinobi is a retarded idea. Also, rule number for the test. The man was furious. "Do you want me to kill you?" "Shut up," the head proctor yawned. "You'll disturb my sleep. You're going to let that little bastard interfere with the test. Just fail the kid you were going to fail and shut up, you little pansy," one of the other proctors said. "Fine." He snapped his fingers and the room was short 3 more people. Finally, the last of the time ticked away and an alarm sounded. 12 teams had been eliminated for cheating during that time. The papers seemed to vanish and appear in the hands of the proctors at the side of the room. "Now shut up and wait for them to tally the scores. The first rule is still in effect." The room was soon filled with calls from the proctors as they announced if the teams failed. It seemed that they were rather strict when it came to the answers, seeing that most of the proctors were yelling failed. Soon at Team 6, pass, a proctor growled. Naruto wanted to cheer, but reminded himself that the rule was still in effect. After all the tests were announced, it looked like their numbers were cut in half, leaving 40 teams, the majority being Iwa. Seems like some of you might be worthy of Chunin after all, the head proctor sneezed, feeling another wave of killing intent. Still needs work. The door at the front of the room burst open and a short woman with a large mining pick walked in. She was wearing a pair of black pants and wore a white tank top that was covered in dirt. Her hair was brown and her blue eyes seemed annoyed by something. She wore a yellow helmet on her head with a small light on the front. She looked like she crawled out of a deep and dirty hole, judging by her appearance. Naruto had a bad feeling about this. "You done yet?" she asked. "Yeep, take them away, Hitomi." Yay, she sighed and addressed the genin. "All right, runts, come with me. I'm your proctor for the second part of the exam. Follow me, keep up and shut up." "Asuka, what is it, Kaiyusuke? During the test I noticed that you didn't look at your paper till around the end," he said. "You use a jutsu or something to gather the answers? What business of yours is it how I go about doing things?" she said, growling at him. "Care to explain something to me? Why did that one question get you so angry? The killing intent you released almost made Maya piss herself." "It did not," Maya raged. "Don't say things like that." "I did." Naruto blinked in surprise. "I didn't realize." "Hard not to notice it," Asuka frowned. "Care to explain yourself?" "I'm sorry." Naruto looked away with a frown. "I'd rather not talk about it." "You make it sound so personal," she mocked. "Could tea have really been that bad?" Naruto stopped in his tracks and gave he a long hard glare, that seemed to shut her up, and for the first time, felt unsettled from her teammate. "I withdraw my question," he said, walking away. "Not so fast, Kaiyusuke." Asuka snapped to and walked after him. "Answer me." "Asuka-san," Maya said softly. "I think you really got to Kaiyusuke-san this time." "What are you talking about?" Whatever it was, it brought back a bad memory for him. "I think it would be a good idea to apologize." "What for? All I did was mention the fourth Hokage? Why does he have to take it so personal?" "Ask him later," Maya shrugged. "We have more important things to worry about our pasts." "Right," she grunted and followed the group. As they walked on, they didn't notice they had a listener, who walked into the shadows after hearing the conversation. After walking and riding elevators down till it felt like they were a few miles underground, did they come to a large cave. There was a strange glowing crystal in the walls that illuminated the area enough for you to see. Looking up, it was almost like seeing a brilliant star-filled sky. On the walls surrounding the cave were multiple tunnel entrances, each with a shinobi standing in wait for them. "This is the second part of the exam," the woman known as Hitomi said. "Basically this is a survival test. You have a week to get your team to an underground chamber above us. There are natural water springs as well as a few animals for food. However, due to unforeseen events, the animal population is too low this year, so supply packages have been placed throughout the tunnel network. All of you have to sign these," she said as people began handing out forms. "There's our contract stating that you know of the dangers you're about to face." "Does that mean we can kill?" someone asked. "Yes it does," the woman scolded. "However, seeing what I just said about the animal population, you are not allowed to kill them, even in defense. If you are caught doing so, you are disqualified. What the hell are we supposed to do them?" "Jackass," the woman spat. "You're shinobi, aren't you? Run, hide, become a shadow. Just don't kill the animals, you got it?" "Yes ma'am," was the collective answer. "Good," she sighed, then grinned. "With that out of the way, form a line and wait to be led to your tunnel." One by one, the teams were separated and guided to a tunnel entrance. Once that was done, Hitomi smiled and smashed her pick into the stone. Begin the second stage of the exam. Thus Naruto, Asuka and Maya entered the tunnel to face their next challenge. "I hate this place." Kaiyusuke mentally sighed for the 7th time. The sleep deprivation was getting to him, Asuka as well. Shifting his weight, Maya groaned in pain on his back. Her broken arm, leg and shattered rib were hard to keep still as they traveled, but the large gash on her back was the more serious wound. Even with proper treatment it would get infected and there would be a permanent scar for the rest of her life. "We're not far now," Asuka grunted. "The air is moving faster." "Right." Asuka was faring better than Maya. She led the way, using one of her swords as a walking stick due to a kunai wound on her leg. He was lucky. The few injuries he had were practically healed now cause of the Kyuubi. And to think it's only the second day. Kaiyusuke thought darkly. 36 hours ago. They had just entered the tunnel network and were wasting no time in putting distance between them and the entrance. The walls were laced with the same glowing crystal as in the main chamber, giving them some light to travel by. So any ideas on how we get to the surface? Maya asked. We go up, of course. Asuka snorted. And if we run into a dead end? Kaiyusuke asked. The more we backtrack, the bigger chance we have of running into another team. We follow the flow of air, Asuka sighed. That should lead us to the top. Well, seeing that Iwa is playing the home advantage, you can assume that the majority of the people passing will be locals. How you figure that? In Konoha they host their second exam in Training Field 44, otherwise known as the Forest of Death. The area is a forest environment with a stream running through it and a tower in the center. In order to enter the tower you need to possess 2 scrolls, one of which you're given before you enter the field. And the second scroll? Maya asked. You fight a team for it and hope it's the one you need. Kaiyusuke continued. This cuts the remaining teams in half. Anyway, seeing that Konoha is surrounded by vast forests, their shinobi are well trained in that environment. And seeing we're in Iwa, Maya gasped. Their shinobi could waltz through this place at double the passe. Exactly, Asuka said, then frowned. How do you know so much about the Konoha Chunin exam, Kaiyusuke? Classified, he smiled under his mask. You know, she said, looking at him darkly. We've been on the same team for a while and we barely know anything about your past. Classified, he said, moving forward. Classified my ass, she said, following him. How do you expect us to trust you if you don't trust us enough to talk to us? Right, Maya? Trust me when I say this. Kaiyusuke sighed, looking back at them. If I were to tell you, your opinion of me might change, and I don't want that. Asuka glare wasn't helping. If it means that much to you. I'll talk after we get out of here. And why not no? Asuka demanded. Give me one good reason. Cause if someone were to hear, he turned dead serious. It would put not only my life, but the lives of the 2 of you, and everyone in Suna in danger. Yay, right, Asuka laughed. You make it sound so serious. Oh, I'm Kaiyusuke, I'm so mysterious. I hide my face with a mask so no one can tell who I am. Asuka-san, Maya said, grabbing her arm. What? Now's not the time. We need to keep moving. Fine. Asuka stomped off to the front, leaving Naruto and Maya behind. Thanks, Kaiyusuke sighed. No problem, she smiled. You going to be all right? I'll be good once I get out of this cave, he said, walking forward. I need to talk to Gaara about Asuka. Cage-sama? She blinked. Why do you need to talk to him? Because if I'm to tell you guys everything, then he'll have to be present as well. Kaiyusuke-san, let's go. Before Asuka gets into trouble. Right. After what seemed like days, they came to a large chamber with multiple entrances. It was nowhere near the size of the main entrance, but it was big enough to set up camp for a few hours. Seems like a good place to rest for a while, Kaiyusuke said, looking around. What's that over there? Maya pointed at a yellow box in on the far side of the chamber. Might be one of those supply deposits? Kaiyusuke said, pulling out a kunai. Or a trap, Asuka said, unsheathing a sword. So how do we find out? One of us is going to have to open it. We could wait for another team, Asuka said. But then we might have to fight over the food. I guess there's no other choice. Kaiyusuke sighed, forming a cross-like seal. Kage Bushin no Jitsu. There was a pop, and there were 2 Kaiyusuks now in the chamber. Without wasting time, the clone walked forward and began examining the crate. When the hell did you learn that? Asuka slammed her fist on Naruto's head. OWWW. Kaiyusuke rubbed his head. Asuka. Whatever, you'll probably say that classified crap again. That's a Junin-level jutsu. Maya squeaked out. Kaiyusuke shrugged and watched as the clone dismissed itself, sending back its knowledge to him. Seems like it's the real deal, come on, he said, walking over to the box. I wonder what's inside, Maya asked. By the looks of it, it's simple rations, Asuka paled. I don't know about you two, but I ate some Suna rations once. It was not a good experience. Luckily for us, I came prepared, Maya said, pulling out a scroll. I sealed a few supplies in here before we left home just in case. And what, you decide to share this information now? Asuka growled. I didn't want to use them unless it was an emergency. An emergency is what we're going to have if you don't dish out the food, Maya. Asuka. Kaiyusuke and Maya sighed. I don't suppose you. Yes, Kaiyusuke-san, Maya giggled. I have ramen too. You're the best, Maya-chan. Kaiyusuke plopped on the ground, waiting for her to unseal the scroll. Kami, a shinobi whose weakness is ramen, pathetic. Asuka sighed. Kaiyusuke was having a nice dream where he was being ushered in as the Rokudame cage when he was shook awake. Groggily, he opened his eyes to see a worried Maya who was missing her jacket. Maya-chan, I was having a good dream, he yawned. Kaiyusuke-san, Maya said, shaking him more. Asuka-san said, there's shinobi heading our way, we need to get moving. Are you sure it's not another team from Suna? He said, starting to grab his gear. The chakra signatures aren't familiar, Asuka said, throwing her bag over her shoulder. We need to hurry, there's almost here. Actually, we already are. Asuka grabbed her sword, dropping her bag in the process, and got ready. There were 3 people surrounding them, all dressed in the same black suits with red trimmings. Taki Nin, Maya said. And you're from Suna, the tallest one said with iron gray hair. You can have the supplies, Asuka grinned. We don't really care. We'll be on our way now. Oh, I don't think so, the one near Kaiyusuke said. We'll take the food after we kill you. Got to thin out the competition, you know. Save the woman. One purred, playing with a kunai. They look like they'll be fun after we kill the guy. Pigs, Asuka growled in rage. I'll kill myself before I become a whore for a bunch of weaklings. Oh, I'm defiantly going to enjoy having you. I so love seeing strong women broken before me, he laughed maniacally. And after I'm done with you, I'm going to. He didn't get a chance to finish as he was sent flying back to the wall with a sickening crunch. Kaiyusuke stood in his place with his leg extended, then returned it to his side. Sorry about that, he said. I got a thing against perverts. None taken, Asuka grinned. The Taki Nin that was covering Naruto whistled. That was a close one, Baka. Fucker, came an angry voice from behind the leader. I'm going to enjoy slitting his throat, after he watches us have our fun with the whores. Kawarimi no Jitsu? Kaiyusuke blinked. Sharp eye, the leader complimented. Thanks. Shall we begin? I guess so. Kaiyusuke pulled out a few of kunai. In a blur of motion, Kaiyusuke threw the kunai at the one covering him before, who pulled out a kunai of his own and deflected them barely. Asuka took the cue and charged with her sword with Maya trailing behind her. Asuka rolled to the side at the last minute, giving Maya a clear path for a flying kick. As Maya now engaged the leader in taijutsu, Asuka moved in on the final Taki Nen. You could have just taken the food, Kaiyusuke said, staring down his opponent. And where's the fun in that? Quote. Good point, Kaiyusuke grinned. However, I don't really have time to play with you guys. You make it sound so simple. Don't you think that someone in your position should be a little more worried? I can sense your chakra reserves, they're so small it's not even funny. You can sense my chakra reserve? How do you think we were able to find you? We searched out the smallest ones and take them out first. Ah, Kaiyusuke nodded. Smart strategy on your part. Thank you. Now shall we? I guess, Kaiyusuke sighed. The shinobi appeared behind Kaiyusuke and held a kunai to his throat with a smirk. That was too easy. It's like you didn't even try to stop me. That's the point. What? Looking behind him, he had just enough time to look surprised as Kaiyusuke's fist slammed into his face and sent him flying into the cave wall. Grunting in pain, he got up and looked at Kaiyusuke with blood pouring out of his broken nose. Teme, bring it. He charged at Kaiyusuke, but before he reached him he tripped on something. As he fell, the second Kaiyusuke appeared beside him and kicked him upward till he hit the roof and began to fall. He never did reach the ground as Kaiyusuke slammed his fist into his gut, knocking the air out of his lungs. How? He gasped. I lowered my chakra levels as not to be detected easily. Kaiyusuke explained. You see, I have an abnormally high amount of chakra for my age, so my control sucked. However, my sensei showed me a few meditation exercises that allowed me to control it a lot better. Who are you? Sakabu no Kaiyusuke, he said, tossing him aside. Man, that was too quick. Now I have to wait for the other two. A scream shot through the air, putting Kaiyusuke on edge. Maya. He looked over to where she was fighting and froze. Asuka hated perverts, and now she was stuck fighting one. Come on, whore, he said, licking his kunai. You are so going to regret that. The man charged with lust and madness in his eyes, as he slashed wildly with his kunai. His movements were sloppy, but not to the point that she could let her guard down. She slashed horizontally on a 30-degree angle, that he narrowly avoided save for a few strands of hair. Keeping her advantage, she continued her assault as she continued to push him forward. Growling in frustration, he jumped back a few feet and formed seals. Sweden. Tepudama, he shot bullets of water from his mouth. Asuka just a combination of slashing the projectiles with her sword and using her speed to dodge altogether. My turn, she grinned. Zankuha no Jitsu. She used her free hand to send a blast of wind at the shinobi who stabbed the kunai into the ground and braved the wind. After the wind died down, he formed more seals attacked. Sweden. Suryuden no Jitsu. Surprisingly, water shot up from the ground and formed the head of a dragon that opened its mouth and rushed Asuka. There must be an underground river or something below us. Flying through her own seal, Asuka brought her hands together, pulling wind with it till it formed a ball. Futon. Rinkuden. The ball shot forward, ripping through the water dragon and towards the Taki Nen. Seeing the speeding wind sphere, he jumped over it, barley. When he landed he looked up, only to see air. It's over. Looking over his shoulder, he saw Asuka standing behind him ready to strike. Whore, he spat. Asuka frowned and with a slash of her sword, sliced a long and deadly cut in the enemy's back. Before she could gloat however, he popped in a cloud of smoke. Kawarimi again? She said but was answered with a scream. The smoke cleared and Maya now stood before her with the wound meant for her opponent. Maya, she heard Kaiyusuke yell as he ran over to them. No. Asuka went to help but stopped and looked to her side. That was a close one again Baka, the leader said. Shut it, he said. Seems like we're short one person. He's over there somewhere. Let's deal with these two first. Let's. Kaiyusuke. Asuka said. Get ready. But Maya-chan is. We'll help her later. Right now we have to deal with these two. Right. He grunted getting up, kunai at the ready. Oh, so you're ready to play again? I'm going to enjoy watching you scream in pain, Asuka said. Funny. I was about to say the same thing to you, the pervert grinned. We don't have time for this. Naruto growled charging. Kaiyusuke. The pervert grinned and threw a set of kunai at him as did the leader. Kage kunai no jitsu, they yelled in unison, turning 10 kunai into 50. Kaiyusuke dodged half the kunai, with 10 missing altogether, leaving 15 hits. The kunai all hit non-vital spots, but still cut deep, hitting muscle and bone. Everyone was so shocked that they couldn't react in time as Kaiyusuke delivered a punch to the leader's face, sending him to the ground. Using the momentum from the punch, he turned around and with his other hand, stabbed his kunai into the other shinobi's shoulder all the way to the handle. He screamed in pain as his arm went limp, giving Naruto the chance to deliver a taijutsu combo that sent the enemy back towards Asuka. Seeing a body fly towards her was enough to snap Asuka from her shock. Wasting now time, she sidestepped the body and while it was still in the air, slashed with her sword. This time she hit her mark, placing a deep cut into his chest. She looked over to where Naruto was, only to see him walking away from the leader, blood covering his hands. Kaiyusuke? He walked past her and over to their fallen teammate, who had remained unconscious after the attack. Pulling a cloth and small container, he kneeled down and began cleaning the wound. How bad is it? I'm not a medic so I can tell, he said while he worked. This ointment will seal the wound long enough for us to get her to a doctor. She'll be fine as long as we can get her out of here. He paused and looked her over. Looks like her left arm and leg are broken, maybe even a few ribs. I'll get the gear. She turned around and walked towards the gear. However, she didn't notice the pervert Taki Nin rollover till it was too late. She screamed in pain and a kunai was lodged into her leg. Instinct took over as she took her sword and stabbed it through his chest, killing him instantly. Damn it, she growled pulling out her blade. Let me take a look, Kaiyusuke said looking at the wound. I dropped my guard, she gasped. Asshole. I'm going to have to pull this out, he said looking at her. Do it, she said grabbing hold of his coat. In a swift movement he pulled out the blade, getting a cry of pain from his teammate. After cutting the clothing open, he took out another cloth from his pouch and dressed her wound before the bleeding got out of hand. Can you walk? I'll damn well walk out of this shithole, she said as he helped her up. We'll lead the gear, he said walking over the Maya, then gently placed her on his back. You lead the way seeing you can track the air currents better than me. What about your wounds Baka? Trust me when I say they won't be a problem, he walked up to her. Which way Asuka? Hold on, she said taking a breath and closing her eyes. The stronger air current is coming from this direction. Then let's get out of here. Yamato was not a very happy person at the moment. After the failed attempt to capture Uchiha Sasuke again, he was sent out on a solo mission the moment he got back. Upon his return a few days ago, he was briefed on the situation regarding his former student Naruto. Getting over the shock took a few moments before his current thoughts started running through his mind. Although his time was short with Naruto, he knew one thing for certain, and that was Naruto wouldn't leave, no matter how much he was pushed. Sakura's contribution startled him greatly, but only added to the questions he had to answer. It wasn't long before he found himself in front of Ichiraku's ramen bar and a small smile formed on his face. Remembering the times he was here with the young shinobi, he couldn't help but walk in and take a seat. "Can I help you?" came a withdrawn voice. Blinking in surprise, Yamato examined the usually happy ramen stand waitress Ayame. Her neat and maintained appearance was replaced by a worn-out, red-eyed Reek. He knew the girl was a little close to Naruto, seeing she knew him since he entered the academy, but this was a surprise. "A bowl of miso ramen please," he said after a moment. "And a cup of tea while I wait." She nodded and made her way to the back kitchen. As she vanished from view, her father came from the other side into the front to see a customer. "Did Ayame-chan take your order?" "She did. Though she seems like she has a lot on her mind. She just came back from a vacation from our extended family. So I take it she took the news hard then. She hasn't been like this since her mother died," the older man sighed. "Having someone you see as a little brother run away from home is hard to accept." Yamato said, frowning. "Run away," he snorted. "Rubbish. That boy loved this village more than anyone else. Even after his hard life, he would give his own to save us all." "I agree," Yamato said, raising an eyebrow. "I knew something was off when he talked to me before left. I couldn't place what it was, but after I heard a few conversations from the other customers." "He talked to you before he left? What'd he say?" "That's the oddest thing. He said it was a mission, but the masked shinobi escorting him didn't look like they wanted him to stop for anything." "Masked shinobi? Anbu? Yay, that was them. They literally seemed to pull him out of the village." Yamato frowned and rested his chin in his hand. Seemed his suspicions were confirmed. There was more going on than he realized. A shinobi must look at the underneath of the underneath after all. Kaiyusuke sat on the ground, opening his senses to alert him of any approaching shinobi. His jacket was used as a makeshift blanket for Maya, who was sleeping by his side. The closest she came to consciousness was when she asked for some water, but quickly passed out from the pain afterwards. Asuka was laying on her side with her back to him, asleep as well. From her last statement, they were a few hours away from the finish, but they needed their rest. So Kaiyusuke found himself guarding his two teammates with all but his thoughts for company. Just when he was about to grab a drink of water, a chill ran up his spine and into his head. As a precaution, he sent a few groups of cage bushin into the tunnels so no one could get the jump on them. Seemed that the clone in the western tunnel dispelled itself to send information back to the original. "Two Iwa teams, just our damn luck," he said to himself, then nudged Asuka. "Get up, where's going to have company?" "URH," she said, getting into a sitting position. "How many?" "Two Iwa teams. Shit, we need to move." "Right," he said, forming a seal and produced 3 bushin. "What are they for?" "A distraction," he said as the clones were covered in smoke. "Henge no Jitsu," they said. When the smoke cleared, a replica of their team was standing at the ready. "They should slow them down some," he said, putting Maya on his back. "Come on." "Right. It's been months since the Kyuubi has been seen," a shadowed figure said as he walked. "I'm beginning to lose my patience. We have 2 teams looking for him as we speak," a female voice said. "It's just a matter of time before we find him. After all, he no longer has Konoha to protect him." "True, those fools threw away their greatest weapon," a second female voice said. "The question still stands to where he is hiding. Going by his profile, all we have to do is wait for him to act, then he'll be ours and our goals will be that much closer to completion." Another man said. "They're closing in," Kaiyusuke said, grunting. "How much further?" 50 meters, Asuka said. "Take the next tunnel to the left." She was riding on the back of a cage bushin that had scouted ahead of them when they were resting. Asuka argued at first but accepted the dire situation and sucked up her pride. "How's Maya doing?" "She's getting a slight fever," he said, leaping over a few rocks. "She'll need a medic soon." They were coming to another small chamber. Directions? Take the third from the right, she said. Following her directions, they continued to run through the tunnels. They ran into a few other teams along the way but managed to slip by unnoticed. Finally, what seemed like weeks, they reached the surface. It took a moment for their eyes to adjust to the sunlight again, but they were soon able to take in their surroundings. They were at the entrance of a mining shaft that was overlooking a large building in the center of a clearing. It seemed that the whole building was surrounded by mining operations. A gasp of pain from Maya brought Kaiyusuke out of his daze as he ran full out towards the building. Welcome and congratulations upon completing the second phase of the exam, Iwid-chunin said as they appeared at one of the many doors. Looks like you had a run-in with some uninvited quests. You could say that, Kaiyusuke grunted. We need a medic desperately. Of course, the man said, opening the door. The man inside will escort you to the resting quarters. Thanks. So that's what happened, Ashitaka frowned. Yes, sensei, Kaiyusuke and Asuka said. The three were standing beside a bed that Maya was currently asleep in. The doctors patched her up as best they could, but they recommended that she not aggravate her injuries. Asuka's wound was healed mostly now, but she still walked with a bit of a limp. You did exception well given the situation, he said, looking over at Maya. Keeping a level head in such a situation and not losing sight of your goal while attending an injured team member. He looked back at his two standing students. Get your rest. In 18 hours the second part of the exam will end. Yes, sensei. Their captain left, leaving Kaiyusuke and Asuka alone with Maya. After several moments, Asuka turned and took a seat in a chair and looked at Kaiyusuke with an unreadable expression. What? He asked after a while. Thanks, she said, looking away. What was that? Don't make me say it again, Kaiyusuke, she grunted. Okay. Kaiyusuke blinked, then took a seat in the other chair. I'm going to get some sleep. Using a Junin-level jutsu continuously and carrying her would be a pain, Asuka grinned, but he was already asleep. Baka. Closing her eyes, she joined her teammates and slept for the first real time in days. It wasn't long before Kaiyusuke was standing in formation with Asuka and a very injured Maya. The medics warned her to stay in bed, but she knew if she didn't show up it would be disrespectful. So, soon as Team 6 stood at attention with 7 other teams that happened to get through the mine. Along with his team, there was one apiece from Arashi, Kumo and Grass. However, the remaining 4 teams were all from Iwa. Both the proctors of the exam were looking over them at the top of a large boulder that overlooked a large portion of the clearing. On their side stood the captains of the team, awaiting further orders. Congratulations on completing the second part of the Chunin exams, the nameless proctor said, looking at them all with a grin. You are the representation of your village's power, thus representing the power of your home countries. They should be proud to have crafted such fine instrument of war. However, Hitomi continued, placing her arms behind her back. As much as I would like to see you all participate in the finals, there is a slight problem. What are you talking about? Asuka frowned. There's too many of us, Kaiyusuke frowned. There are too many of you left, the proctor continued. The final test is a one-on-one combat scenario where you fight in front of the leaders and future rulers of this land. Thus, their time is valuable and can't be wasted. What's going on? Maya asked. There will be a preliminary before we can continue, he continued. The test has been decided to be a battle royal between the remaining teams. Those of you that are unable to participate due to fatigue or serious injury maybe chose to drop out now. Know that doing so you are not bringing shame to you and your village, for you have fought valiantly and strong. Maya, Asuka said, looking at her teammate. I can't just leave you guys. We can handle it, Maya. There's no point in hurting yourself further. But, Maya, Kaiyusuke looked at her. There's no shame in dropping out now. Asuka-san, Kaiyusuke-san, we won't fail, Kaiyusuke said, giving her the thumbs up. Asuka and I will get to the finals and win this thing for you and Suna. That's a promise. Asuka showed a small smile and nodded in agreement. Maya looked at her 2 teammates and placed her gaze on the ground. After a few seconds she nodded her head and raised her hand. I withdraw, she said, and walked away. As she left, Kaiyusuke frowned and clenched his fists in anger. Noticing her teammate change in attitude, she was going to voice her opinion when he interrupted her. No more fooling around, Asuka, he said, looking at her. This is for Maya now, not our personal gain. I'll watch our back, you watch mine, got it? Like I need you watching my back, Kaiyusuke no baka, She crossed her arms then grinned. Either way, we're going to mope the floor with their skulls. Naruto nodded and placed his attention on the proctors once again, who were waiting for the stragglers to leave. In the end it was Maya along with one Arashi nin who was helped off the field by a medic and 2 Iwa nin. Is that all? Hitomi asked, getting no reply. Very well, each remaining team will be assigned a proctor. They will decide it when you're unable to fight any further. If you are unable to move, or knocked out and dare I say even killed. Well, you get the idea. Follow your proctors to your start point and await for the start. The match will last as long as needed till the desired amount of candidates is met. As they all separated, Kaiyusuke noticed that Arashi nin signaled a Kumo nin, ending in a nod from both of them. You see that, Asuka? Kumo and Arashi? Yay, looks like alliances are starting to form. This is going to be interesting, she said, preparing herself. You ready for this, Baka? You know me, he said, cracking his knuckles. That's what I'm afraid of. Suna Team 6, are you ready? The proctor asked. Yes, team ready. The proctor shouted, as did the other proctors. Very well, the proctor grinned and raised his hand. Begin. Kaiyusuke and Asuka watched as countless jutsus, kunai and shrunken flying around the battlefield, hitting shinobi, bushin and various other things. Before they could rush forward, a team of Iwa nin charged them, throwing various blades at them. Kaden. Gokakyu no Jutsu. Futon. Daitopa. The combined attack gave the fireballs from Kaiyusuke a speed burst and added power from the gust of wind provided by Asuka. The Iwa nin were caught off guard from the surprise combination. The attack hit one of them full on as he began putting the flames out. Asuka attacked. Kamaitachi no Jutsu. Asuka slashed her sword, sending arcs of cutting wind forward. Doden. Doryuheki. A wall formed in front of the Iwa team, blocking the attack with great damage to the wall. Feeling the ground move below him, Naruto grabbed Asuka and jumped into the air just as 3 sets of hands tried to pull them down with a failed Doden. Shinju Zanshu no Jutsu. Kaden. Gokakyu no Jutsu. Kaiyusuke shot the giant ball of fire at the ground, scolding everything it touched. As they descended, Asuka unsheathed both her swords after doing her hand seals. Kamaitachi no Jutsu. The wind blew away the smoke covering the field and diced the surrounding ground with countless slashes. In the center of a smoldering crater were the broken bodies of 3 Iwa nin, which the proctors looked over. Nodding to each other, they signaled a medic team that carried away the shinobi. Iwa Team 13 all defeated, the proctor said. Kaiyusuke and Asuka turned to examine the battlefield and noticed that the Arashi and Kumo team had joined forces. By the looks of it, the Kumo team was down 1 member while the Arashi was down to only 1. They were surrounded by 7 of the remaining Iwa team who were using their Doden jutsus to try and isolate each shinobi. Shall we? Asuka asked. Let's, Kaiyusuke said, pulling out a full set of kunai in each hand. Kaiyusuke threw his kunai at the closest Iwa nins, which were propelled by his Zankuha no Jutsu. 2 of the Iwa nin were hit while the others dodged and prepared to attack. Taking their cue, the 2 Kumo nin threw a few kunai attached to wire and sent a current of a nameless Raiden Jutsu into the Iwa nin. As they did this, the Arashi nin forced a Iwa nin away from the group and headed towards Naruto's position. Asuka parried a set of shrunken thrown at her with her sword, while Kaiyusuke caught the one thrown at him and sent them back at the enemy. As they dodged the attack, Asuka and Naruto kicked their enemies into each other along with the Arashi, who forced the 3rd Iwa nin to them. They noticed that Arashi nin was going through a complex set of hand seals when Hitomi raised her voice. Enough. The mock has officially ended. The genin stopped their attacks, but kept their guard up. Well done all of you, she said as the medics entered the field and took away the wounded. Will the remaining candidates please step forward? Looking wearily at each other, Kaiyusuke and Asuka walked forward till they and the others were standing in front of the proctors. When your name is called, step forward and pull a slip of paper out of the box, Hitomi said, grinning. This is place you in the order for the main matches. Kurigami Asuka, said a chunin. Asuka stepped forward and placed her hand in the box and pulled out a piece of paper and showed it to the chunin. Nami Kaji. The remaining Arashi nin stepped forward and placed his hand in the box. He was taller than Kaiyusuke with a hairstyle like Sasuke but brown with dark blue eyes that were the same color as his pants. His black shirt was covered in a brown coat that ended at his shins. Taya. The remaining girl from Iwa stepped forward. She was as tall as Asuka with brown hair the same length. She was wearing a two-piece black dress consisting of a long-sleeve shirt and a matching skirt. Her forehead protector was on her head. Ryozo, a Kumo nin, stepped forward and grabbed a slip of paper. Like Kaiyusuke, his face was covered by a black mask that covered his whole head, hiding his hair. He was dressed in a skin-tight smoke jumpsuit with silver shin guards and bracers. He wore his headband as a belt. Shirokado Makoto. Makoto had a laid-back look on his face with semi-messy red hair and black eyes. He wore a pair of black pants with a white shirt. His hair is tied into a braided ponytail that ends at his neck and his bangs reach his chin. He wore his headband on his head with a black cloth. Yori. Yori was an average-looking teen with short black hair wearing a leather vest with pair of off-white pants. He wore no footwear and had a pair of leather bracers on his arms. He wore his forehead protector off-center from his head. Toshi. The final Iwa nin was wearing a brown shirt with matching pants. He would have passed for a simple civilian if it was for the forehead protector tied around his neck. Kaiyusuke. Kaiyusuke stepped forward and pulled the last piece of paper out of the box even though it wasn't needed. A few seconds later, the Chunin held out a scroll with the match listings and called them out. Match 1. Makoto of Kumo vs Kaji of Arashi. Match 2. Yori of Iwa vs Asuka of Suna. Match 3. Taya of Iwa vs Ryozo of Kumo. Match 4. Toshi of Iwa vs Kaiyusuke of Suna. The final matches will be in 5 weeks' time, the proctor said. Until then, do as you wish. Your senseis will take you back to the village. See you all in 5 weeks. With that, they vanished in a cloud of smoke and the teams left with their senseis to begin their training for the final match. The Yondaime Tsuchikage, master of Doden, and said to be the creator of a dozen jutsus. He was a seasoned fighter, nowhere near the age of the Hokage, and not as young as the Kage but a medium between the two. His dark blonde hair poked out from under his cage hat with a green symbol for Earth on it. His blue eyes, hidden from view, were looking over a document that was on his desk. A small frown appeared on his brow, as he continued to read the reports from the proctors of the Chunin exams. Their reports were deeply troubling, and if right, would mean serious trouble in the future. Turning around in his chair, he looked out the window at the city below. Tsuchikage-sama, an Anbu appear in the center of the room. What is it? He asked. I have the latest report on the Suna, Arashi and Kumo teams. The man said, placing the document on the table. Is that all? No sir, he said. Upon further review of the files acquired from our agents, we have yet to uncover any mission files involving Sakabu no Kaiyusuke prior to 3 years ago, nor has his name been issued in any other mission statement. I see, he said, turning towards the shinobi. What's your personal opinion? They're hiding something, Tsuchikage-sama. This Kaiyusuke is no genin from what I've seen. What would you place his skills level at? High Chunin, possibly Junin level. The Kage began looking at the reports placed on the table, as well as the pictures that were taken. After going over the whole file, he looked up to see the Anbu was standing there waiting for orders. Increase the security around the tournament, he said. Have the border patrols change their intervals and put the Junins on alert. Yes, Tsuchikage-sama. The Anbu vanished into the floor, leaving the Kage alone in his office, looking over the files before him once again. Tsuchikage-sama, a Chunin, entered the office. The Kage and his escort have arrived and are awaiting your presence. Very well, he said, getting up. Where the hell is that no-good son of a bitch? Asuka-san. I'm sure he'll be here in time. Ashitaka was standing with Asuka and Maya in front of an entrance to the stadium where the finals were taking place. The said stadium was located inside of a giant geofront located under the city. The city on the ground level was a cover for the real city located underground. The real Iwagakure no Sato was between the size of Suna and Konoha. Covering the ceiling of the large cave was a major collection of the glowing crystal that was in the cave of the second exams. In the past month, Maya's injuries had healed, save for her broken bones. She was currently wearing a cream kimono provided by the hospital as she supported herself with a crutch. We haven't seen the guy in a month. A month? What could have possibly been so important that he disappears for a fucking month? He's obviously been training, their sensei said. Seeing I've been training you, he's gone off and trained himself. Why do you focus on Asuka-san sensei? Maya asked. It doesn't seem fair to Kaiyusuke-san. It was a direct order from the case cage. Case cage-sama? The two girls said. Why in the hell would he give an order like that? Because Kaiyusuke is the kind of guy that can take care of himself when it comes to training. The three members of Team 6 turned and looked at a tall man standing there with a large grin on his face. He was wearing a two-piece black suit with a circular symbol on his chest. There were 5 scrolls secured to his belt, that 2 bags that contained shuriken, bomb tags and wire. Kankuro-san, Maya said. I take it that the case cage has arrived? He has, Kankuro said. He and Tamari are meeting with the Tsuchikage right now. Kankuro-san, Maya stepped forward. What did you mean when you said Kaiyusuke-san can train himself? I've known Kaiyusuke since I was a genin, he simply shrugged. And I know one thing for sure, it's that if his mind is set on something, then absolutely nothing will stop him. Then why is he still a genin if you've known him for so long? Asuka frowned. That is something you're going to have to hear from Kaiyusuke. It's not my place to go around talking about the guy's past without his permission. What happened? Maya asked. All I can say is that it's really bad, Kankuro said and walked towards the stadium. Come on, Kaiyusuke will be here in time for his match, but if we keep talking here then you'll be late for yours. Asuka now found herself with the other Chunin candidates in the arena under the gaze of few thousand spectators. In the cage box sat the Tsuchikage with Gaara at his side and another person in cage robes in yellow. That had to be the Raikage. He was taller than the 2 other cages with long spiky red hair and green eyes. With them were the 2 proctors from the first parts of the exam as well as Tamari and Kankuro. Hey you. Asuka blinked and looked to her side to see one of the Kumo nins looking at her. His face looks calm and lazy and his black eyes looked at her without a care in the world. My name is Kurigami Asuka, she said crossing her arms. You're Makoto, right? Yay, he said looking around. I was wondering where that Kaiyusuke guy was. Did he get hurt or something? Hell if I know. Teme went off without telling us where a month ago and haven't heard from him since. That guy can really piss me off. Right, he said walking away. Good luck in your fight. Shouldn't you be worrying about your own fight? She frowned. Yay, he said waving a hand. Don't blink or you'll miss all the good parts. Isn't he a bit cocky? Toshi laughed. More like confident, Yuri said with his eyes closed. He should be a good fight. Yay right. Zip it, Aiwa Junin said. Tsuchikage-sama is about to address the crowd. Everyone turned their attention to the cage box to see the Tsuchikage stand and walk to the edge of the balcony. Greetings all around, he said in a booming voice. It pleases me to see all of you today. Before you are the shinobi worthy of being Chunin. I welcome you all and hope that you'll be pleased with the matches. With that said, I start the beginning of the final exams. The crowd cheered in approval as 2 names appeared on Old Fashion's display board. Makoto Shirokado of Kumo versus Kaji Nami of Arashi, the Junin yelled. All other fighters please move to the observation booth. As the remaining fighters left the battlefield, the 2 shinobi stared themselves down. Even after they Junin announced the beginning of the match they continued to look at each other. What the hell are they doing? Toshi asked. They're wasting time. Is it some kind of jitsu? Taya suggested. No, Ryozo laughed. It's an unspoken tradition between our village and Arashi. And that is? Asuka asked. Down on the field, the 2 continued to stare at each other with such intensity, Kaji was. Makoto kept a passive look. That a trail of lightning could almost be seen between them. Finally, after several long minutes, they raised their fists in the air and brought them down. Rock, paper, scissors, they said in unison. Everyone in the surrounding area full over save for the Raikage and Ryozo. We've been waiting for 7 fucking minutes for that. Asuka shouted. Tradition, Ryozo shrugged. Back on the battlefield Kaji lowered his head in defeat. Scissors beats paper. Makoto grinned. I get first dibs. Fine go ahead. Kaji closed his eyes. What's he? Taya said. Makoto reared back his fist and sent Kaji flying back 5 meters. Winner of rock, paper, scissors gets first hit, Ryozo explained. I guess I should have told that Arashi Nin that Makoto always wins in that game. You guys are crazy, you know that? Asuka said, getting nods of approval from the others. Up in the cage box the Raikage was explaining the same thing to the others. It appeared that it started 7 years ago when the 2 villages were offered the same mission from the Lightning Lord. Not wanting a war to break out between us, he simply offered that challenge, and well, we didn't have the heart to tell him no. Interesting, Gaara said as his family forced a smile. Shall we? Makoto asked, shaking his fist. Sure, Kaji said, getting up, rubbing his cheek. You have to hit me that hard? And insult your village by not taking you seriously? Sure, use that excuse. Kaji took a fighting stance. Shall we? I suppose we let them wait long enough. Makoto took a stance and charged. The two began fighting in taijutsu aided with kunai. They circled each other, dodging their attacks, bending around them, blocking. Every now and then a blow would be delivered, but it would be shrugged off. Finally they jumped back several meters and flew through seals. Raiden. Raiko Bakuha no Jitsu. Kaji called as he began shooting lightning from his fingers at Makoto. Raiden. Raikyu, Makoto said. A ball of electricity formed in his hand that started blue and changed to yellow. When he threw it at Kaji, it was the size of his head and moved at shocking speeds. Before it reached its target though, Kaji shot a Raiden. Raiko Bakuha no Jitsu, which caused it to explode. Using the cover from the smoke, Makoto threw a dozen shuriken at Kaji, who deflected the projectiles with his kunai. When the dust cleared, Kaji lost sight of Makoto. Where the hell? Suddenly a pair of hands shot up from the ground and pulled him down. Doden. Shinju Zanshu no Jitsu successful. Makoto grinned, forming more seals. Raiden. Sekoi Boruto no Jitsu. Sparks started to form into the air and gather into his hand, forming an orb of light with blue currents traveling around it. He then dropped it onto Kaji's head, causing an explosion to cover a 3-foot radius. Gasps could be heard in the crowd, thinking that the boy was killed. However, they were mistaken. The dust settled and there was a destroyed log in the ground. Gaining his senses, he turned around only to be kicked in the face. Pushing his advantage, Kaji began beating the crap out of Makoto with his knees, elbows and fists. After a truly painful-looking combo, Kaji kicked him into the air and jumped up after him. No hard feelings, he said, closing his eyes and gathering chakra. He kicked Makoto as hard as he could to the ground, resulting with a sick crunch sound. Still in the air, Kaji opened his eyes and called his attack. Raiden. Kumo Degeki no Jitsu. Kaji's body glowed with lightning currents and in a streak of yellow and black, crashed down onto Makoto. The result was a giant explosion, sending arcs of lightning into the arena, missing the audience. When the dust settled, Kaji stood at the edge of a large crater, obviously out of breath. The crowd began to cheer, but it was short-lived when Makoto was nowhere in the crater. What the? Looking for me? Kaji turned around only to be punched to his right. Before he could counter, Makoto blurred and then he was hit on his right again. This happened for several seconds before he was kicked into the crater. Raiden. Bindingu Rensa Raiko no Jitsu, Makoto calls. Lightning shot from his arms and formed into chains that wrapped around Kaji. The Jitsu shocked him into submission but still tried to free himself. Just give up, Makoto said. You're out of chakra and that last attack you used broke a few of your ribs. Go to hell. Very well then, Makoto sighed, charging forward. Raiden. Hikiriki no Yaiba. A bolt of lightning came crashing down and formed a blade on his right arm. Before the Junin could intervene, Makoto aimed for Kaji's chest, only to stop just as he passed out. Makoto stood there for a few seconds before he stepped back and deactivated the Jitsu. Winner, Makoto Shirokado. Looks like I was right about him, Yori said, grinning. Yay, Toshi asked, then looked to his left. Think you could stare at his ass more obviously, Taya? Jealous Toshi Teme? She spat. Why don't you go back to the brothel and woo your fan club? At least they're pleasant to be around, unlike some people, he said, getting sent through the wall. Asshole. Would Asuka Kurigami of Suna and Yori of Iwa please make your way to the field at this time? Guess that's you and me, big guy, Asuka said, jumping over the edge. Don't hurt her too much, Yori, Taya grinned. No promises, he said, sinking into the ground.
That's all for now. If you want to see next part, then please like this video and subscribe my channel. Thank you.